should pass legislation to hold judges who should know better than anybody what a frivolous case is. If they don't recognize a frivolous case, who does? Letitia James, for bringing that frivolous case, she should be hit with sanctions as well as punitive damages after the higher court throws it out, which I think they'll do.
Well, which will, by the way,
yeah, she had no business. She stood in the shoes of a private plaintiff, and not on behalf of the people of New York when she brought that case against Trump.
So I have two questions for you, Larry. One is the other thing with this case. You brought up a great point that it wasn't like she was representing, because the banks, who are the ones who loaned in the money, they said they made a lot of money and they would do it again. So there was no loss there. There was no injured party. They made tons of money and they were thrilled with them. So you're right.
That law was not meant for the purpose of which she brought it. Yep. She brought it as a personal lawsuit representing herself, because I think that she had designs on Trump's property. She used to walk by there and admire it all the time, like as if maybe she was going to have a hand in getting a portion of those assets.
Or had designs, or Larry, or had designs for political office, because she knew that it would curry favor with a number of her base politically. I mean, her whole ad was, "I'll get Trump," and made that like her campaign issue, and she lived up to it, sadly, you know?
Right. My main point, though, was I think judges such as Lewis Kaplan should be held to a higher standard when reviewing cases and letting it in the door, and they should be hit with sanctions
hello, Mike B.
If the facts break out that way.
Southwest Colorado, I hope you're doing well.
Because he knows better. Being a judge.
Yeah, right. You're supposed to be a neutral arbiter, right?
Right.
And it sure doesn't look that way. Larry, I think that's a superb point.
I just have it on here for another 15 minutes, and then at midnight, Dr. Sky is going to come on.
Folks, the problem is,
so we're starting to stream a little early. Dr. Sky comes on midnight here in the East Coast. I believe it goes on. It's a 2-hour show on Saturday morning, midnight to 2. So that's why I'm waiting for Dr. Sky. This is WABC 770 out of New York City.
Problem. Larry, thank you very, very much. Let's go to Roger in Rockland on line 3. Go ahead, Raj. Hi, Roger. Are you there? Call back, Roger. We can't hear you. Let's go to line 2. Linda. Go ahead, Linda. You're here on the Rita Cosby Show. Linda, I'm losing you. We're having trouble with the lines. Let's go to Lamar in New Jersey. Go ahead, Lamar.
Good evening, Ms. Cosby. We're calling from North Philly tonight, not New Jersey, but I just wanted to make mention of the fact that one of your callers, I believe he describes himself as Stan, who articulated some very hateful dialogue concerning wanting to see American troops, our brave soldiery, confronted by our native allies in Greenland that could very easily result in loss of life. This type of statement is extremely disturbing, and it is also the same person, I believe, at one time called and said that he was rooting for the nations that Donald John Trump, our great president, was confronting with tariffs to bring about some facsimile of fair trade between our nations and restore some balance in that trade. I would adjure you, Miss Cosby, with all due respect and humility, to choose your friends more carefully. This is a man who not only has Trump derangement syndrome, but has a hatred for anyone, a hatred for our country. Anyone who hates Donald Trump hates the America First agenda. That man is a traitor. And Ms. Cosby, we all know out here in Radio Land that your love of country and patriotism are unimpeachable. So I would adjure you to choose your friends more carefully, because with friends like this, we don't need enemies. This man is an enemy of America.
Lamar, I hear you all fired up. By the way, you know I love to hear from everybody here on the show. And Stan has a right to say what he thinks, but you heard how I feel about what he said. I chastised him too. and it was such a preposterous comment that I had to completely say, thank goodness he's not the Secretary of State. So, by the way, where do you see this going, Lamar, with Greenland? And the fact that he actually said Trump screwed up Venezuela, that was a doozy, too.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Miss Cosby, I served in the South American Command when we had an installation known as Fort Clayton in Panama. And I can tell you that the Venezuelan people are proclaiming their love for Donald John Trump.
Hello, Robert Boyd. Where is that tariff check? Well, that has to go through Congress. He cannot just issue a check. So, good luck on that one. That has to go through Congress.
Listen to everybody, and that's what makes America great. But I agree with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to check that. I wouldn't mind that tariff check myself.
I agree with you on that one, Lamar.
We need that money here too.
Country, my friend, too. Let's go to Roger in Rockland on line 3. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, you couldn't hear me before. You hear me now, Rita?
I hear you now. Go ahead.
That might be say I need that check so I can buy more radio.
You couldn't hear me before, but same thing.
And
It
antennas.
started out great, that guy Stan, talking about Letitia James being, just a horrible, whatever you want to call it. She's evil incarnate, like most of the big guns these days. His comments after that is just pure buffoonery. So I don't even, I know you're being nice to him, but like he can't. He's disqualified as far as I'm concerned, talking about politics. He's just listening to Venezuela?
That Trump screwed up Venezuela. I mean, are you kidding me?
Unbelievable. And the other guy talked about Panama. I just want to do a shout out. He's rest his soul, Brigadier General Special Ops Sean Mulholland. Any Army Rangers out there will remember his name. He led a lot of that when we went on with Noriega.
Oh, wow. So was he instrumental, Roger, in bringing Noriega to Florida?
He's pretty much the main guy, actually.
Wow. Tell me his name again, too, because we got to all remember it.
Yeah. Brigadier General Sean, S-E-A-N, the way it's supposed to be spelled, Mulholland, like the drive, M-U-L-H-O-L-L-A-N-D.
All right, good. We got to remember it because he clearly is a great American hero for what he did, and Trump is for what he did for Venezuela, too. Roger, thank you. Yes, Stan is off his rocker. I'll give you that one. 100%, guys. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue your calls after the break, but first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And everybody, this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a powerful story from Quincy, Massachusetts, where Brigadier General Woody Woodhouse was welcomed by friends and family to celebrate his 99th birthday. Quincy's mayor said when you look back at World War II, what it meant for the world, and Woody served with incredible dedication. He was part of breaking the barriers down. And the mayor further said it's crazy when you think back to the barriers for race that want to serve and be part of conquering what was a clear evil at the time. So guys, like Woody Woodhouse, they saved the world. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, by the way, Woody's mother urged his brother and him to serve their country. And at just 17 years old, Woody enlisted in the Army. 2 years later, he was assigned to the 32nd Fighter Group, better known as the infamous Tuskegee Airmen. He graduated from Yale magna cum laude, and he was sent to Fort Robert E. Lee in Virginia. Bravo to this great veteran and his 39th birthday. I love that. And everybody, help America to never, ever forget. Donate just $11 a month. That's all it takes to make such an incredible difference to this great organization. You know I love it. I have seen the incredible good that they have done to our heroes and for their families. Be sure to check out the great Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
Following Following the 9/11 attacks, FDNY firefighter Daniel Foley assisted in the rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero. Daniel spent months at Ground Zero searching for victims, including his firefighter brother, Thomas Foley, who was killed in the attacks. Daniel's death was a direct result of 9/11 related cancer. He leaves behind his wife, Carrie, and their 5 children. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family's home. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
You work decades for your savings. Don't let a policy decision wipe it out overnight. Rising debt, bank stress, the threat of a weaker dollar are all forcing smart investors to take action. Sanctuary Metals helps Americans move part of their IRA or 401ks into real physical gold, tax-deferred and penalty-free. Protect your retirement. Call 800-801-6487 or just go to sanctuarymetals.com for your free retirement defense guide. That's sanctuarymetals.com.
If you're starting this new year wanting more control of your health instead of leaving it to a broken system, well, then the pharmacy for you is All Family Pharmacy. You see, they help people get access to essential medications, including some that the big chain pharmacies make it hard to get or refuse to even carry. That's why so many families rely on them. When everyone around you is getting sick and you want to prepare, you need All Family Pharmacy. You're tired of dealing with insurance and want affordable medications, you need All Family Pharmacy. And when your doctors refuse to prescribe ivermectin and treat you like you're out of line for asking intelligent questions, you need All Family Pharmacy. See, the process is quite simple. You order online, a licensed doctor reviews it, and your medications shipped to your door. They carry antibiotics, Tamiflu, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, and all of your everyday necessary medications and more. So if you haven't already, switch to a pharmacy that you can rely on. You can do so by going to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone, and please use STONE10 as your code to save 10% on your next purchase.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy place every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra.
A health expert is highlighting the importance of keeping the brain active for someone's mental health. Neurologist Dylan Winch of the Cleveland Clinic says anytime an organ of the body isn't being used for what its intended use is, it tends not to function as well.
The real goal here is to avoid passivity, is for your brain to be thinking, to be exploring, to be coming up with ideas, to be looking for solutions to problems.
He's stressing the importance of doing exercises that challenge the brain to think. That could mean doing puzzles, playing a memory game, or learning a new language. He says there are also things you can do in daily life to get mental exercise, such as figuring out a new route to work or using your non-dominant hand for routine tasks. He adds it's never too early or too late to start mental exercise. Your brain always needs to be thinking. I'm Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And there are reports tonight that there could possibly be some imminent action by U.S. or allies towards Iran. We know that the aircraft carrier group, the Abraham Lincoln, has headed to the region. And as we were talking about earlier in the show, just some of the things that have been happening to those freedom-loving protesters has been horrible, heartbreaking to hear. And in fact, even President Trump said a little bit ago that he had heard that 800 protesters were supposed to be hung. A public execution yesterday and he got word that they did not do it, that they were not going to do it. Thank goodness. But now there's a report in the last hour or two that one of the sort of diehard clerics there is saying that the executions will begin again. So what will President Trump do? Could he potentially take some sort of action or some cyber action, some sort of military action? We know what he did with Iran when he came in June and hit those 3 nuclear sites. Iran knows better than to mess with President Trump. Let's go to Linda in New Jersey on line 2. Go ahead, Linda.
Hey, Rita, I'd like to say there are 2 tiers of justice system. Armo was denied refugee status, as In said, her real name. So she took the stolen identity of Omar. Nothing happened to her. She said her president was the Somalian president. Nothing happened to her. She advocated for Al-Qaeda. Nothing happened to her. That was 3 classifications of treason. Nothing happened to her. But then you have a citizen like Garner, just like a regular citizen of America, and he sold one of his cigarettes, which is not right. Apparently it's against the law, but it was just selling a cigarette from a pack of cigarettes that he bought.
Hey, Linda, so sorry, just because we got a hard break, but I do want to hear, do me a favor, you got to call back on Monday, because I think you're making a great point. Everybody, have a good weekend.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
Increasing cloudiness on this Saturday, January 17th. Good morning, I'm Lisa Ritchie. President Trump says there's currently no reason to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota. Shaquille Brewster reports.
The president threatening to invoke the 1800s-era Insurrection Act to use the U.S. military as law enforcement in an American city if state and local leaders don't step in to stop the protests.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Thursday that only Trump could say what would be his tipping point to declare an insurrection, but if he needed it, it is available. A bipartisan congressional delegation is in Copenhagen as President Trump continues his push to acquire Greenland. Ryan Nobles has more.
The American members of Congress have a mission. They want to make sure that Danish leaders understand that they are not necessarily in line with Donald Trump, and they will not support any purchase of Greenland from Denmark to the United States.
Danish officials say they have no interest in selling Greenland and that they take the possibility of military intervention seriously. 16,000 nurses across the city are still off the job today. Noam Layton has more.
Nurses on the picket line
again we're gonna get some
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
5 of their strike against New York Presbyterian, Montefiore,
We're
and
gonna
Mount
get wet
Sinai
snow and
Hospital.
stuff, and then Sunday we're gonna get some snow. So we're gonna snow here also over the
We're
weekend.
fighting for our contract now, but also for the contracts of future nurses. And I think of nurses 10 years from now, I hope that they get even better contracts because of what we're doing.
There were talks between the Nurses Union and New York Presbyterian Hospital last night. No deal made. There has been word that a mediator being brought in today to try to bring all the sides together. Noam Layton, WABC News.
The New York City Council is announcing a 5-point plan to fight anti-Semitism. Council Speaker Julie Menon.
New Yorkers should never be fearful to practice their faith, no matter what their faith is. They should always have confidence and pride in their identities, and we are going to use every single tool at our disposal to ensure that.
The package calls for establishing a safe perimeter around houses of worship and increased security at schools, plus $1.25 million in new funding to the Museum of Jewish Heritage.
This weekend, all the way to
is enhancing security and
around
houses
Tuesday,
of
same
Catholic worship on Staten Island following a string of recent disturbances at churches. NYPD Staten Island Borough Commander Melissa Egger details the incidents.
4 burglaries were committed at Sacred Heart Church, where a number of laptops and other items, including candy, were stolen. In another case at St. Roch's Church, an individual entered a window and stole a towel.
Last week, another incident at St. Anne's Church in Dongan Hills last week had a man storming the altar, disrupting the sermon Sherman and fighting with 2 officers who tried to stop him. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has signed a formal agreement that hinges on the AI leader NVIDIA, uniting the company with the state's public sector and universities.
So in my view, we are all carrying forward our state's legacy of legendary innovation, one that is defined by names like Thomas Edison or all the luminaries at Bell Labs, and certainly now Chris and his colleagues at NVIDIA.
The state is also putting $25 million into supporting a supercomputer initiative for higher education institutions. NJ Transit and Amtrak riders, brace yourselves. Service will be cut in half for about a month. Starting February 15th, construction crews will work to switch one track from the 115-year-old Portal Bridge in Kearney to the new Portal North Bridge over the Hackensack River. The new service plan is expected to last through March 14th, a major milestone in the Gateway program. The work is essential to advancing long-term reliability and capacity improvements on the Northeast Corridor. A stretch of road in Florida is being renamed in honor of President Trump. Trump was in attendance at a dedication ceremony in Palm Beach on Friday and called it an amazing gesture that he'll remember all of his life.
So I'm tremendously honored that the main boulevard from Palm Beach International Airport to the beautiful Mar-a-Lago is being renamed in my honor. That's a very important stretch.
Palm Beach County Commissioners voted unanimously to rename that part of the road in July. Wall Street is closing lower to end the week. The Dow fell 83 points to close at 49,359. The S&P 500 lost 4 points to 6940. The Nasdaq fell 14 to 23,515. In sports, the Mets have signed Bo Bichette, agreeing to a 3-year, $126 million deal with opt-outs after the first 2 years. The current plan is for Bichette, who has only played shortstop in his major league career with Toronto, to take over at third base, with Brett Beatty playing multiple positions. From the 77 WABC Weather Center, overnight looks cloudy. We could see some snow flurries after midnight and the low 33 degrees. Later today, a slushy mix of rain and snow in the morning and little to no accumulation with a high of 40 degrees. And Sunday looks mostly cloudy. We do have the chance of a heavier snowfall depending on the track of a storm, the high 37. Partly cloudy skies outside of our Midtown studios. I'm Lisa Ritchie. Remember, the news never stops at WABCRadio.com.
I hope we don't get any of it. I don't want to shovel snow.
Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
You're listening to the powerhouse blowtorch signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC. Out of the center of the universe, New York City, and around the world. As we welcome you no matter where you are, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dr. Sky Experience. We like to call it, magically, Theater of the Mind, as we continue to talk about the great subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests in the mix, and let's not forget, equally important stories of American exceptionalism about truth, justice, and the American way. We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to get in, of course, with our great guest in a conversation mode, we like that in the form of dialogue. With what we like also is critical thinking. But we don't always get that, but it's your choice indeed. The contact number, as always, is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222.
James is calling
and I'd
in
be
now,
remiss
right?
if I didn't thank our helmsmen, both
Let's
Tony
see
and
if
Bill,
James calls
who
in.
helped navigate this signal so you're hearing it as good and proud and loud.
Let's see if James Farley calls in.
So many things, ladies and gentlemen, but a brief introduction of some of our events that we'll be talking about here in our Theater of the Mind program as we continue on the Dr. Sky Experience. In just a few minutes, in hour number 1, we'll be introducing ourselves to an astronomer. He's a good friend of mine and someone that knows so much about the visual side of the nighttime sky.
He said he might call the show.
With Kevin McEwen. And he has a lot to say, ladies and gentlemen, because many of you out there might have questions,
I don't
and I'm
know.
sure you
He
do,
hasn't been on the
about
screen
how
yet,
to
so
see, and maybe use
he's
a
on the
telescope or a
phone.
pair of binoculars, and don't discount those.
Waiting, he's
and
queued
being
up.
able to see some of these amazing sky objects. We'll delve into the subject of eclipses, We'll talk
guess
about
we'll know
equipment
if
that
we
you
only
yourself
hear 'em.
can use and how to use it, and so much more. But in hour number 2 on this iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience, we go to Dave Whittington, a regular guest here on this radio program of geoengineeringwatch.org. Dave Whittington, is going to update us on many of the things that we see, those long streaks in the sky. Many call them contrails, and other people do not. And also legislation here in Arizona and other parts of the nation to ban, not necessarily do I like the word ban, but in this particular case, ways to prevent geoengineering, cloud seeding, and any other man-made manipulation of the skies above us, an important part of this radio show. And boy, do we have a great show also. Tomorrow, Saturday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday morning, Eastern Standard Time. Special guest, Dr. Don Lincoln of the Fermi Labs on particle physics, the mystery of what lies beneath the atom. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Fermi Labs, located right near the big city of Chicago, Illinois, has been working on what's beneath that particular part of the atom and so many of the strange particles that have been discovered. What makes that make sense to all of us out there as we busy our lives? And they're also responsible for talking about CERN, one of the most massive particle accelerators on the planet Earth. And many people out there have wondered, are they messing with reality by doing these experiments? We'll set that straight and talk about something you might have read about but probably didn't understand. And with the expert, Dr. Don Lincoln of Fermi Labs, we'll talk about the Higgs boson. 1-800-848-9222 is how to get into our theater of the mind. And as we sit there in our studio on our stage, we now bring on our very first guest. And a brief introduction. Kevin McKeown is a serious stargazer and a man of astronomy, the visual side of the many wonders of the cosmos. A native from Huntington, Long Island, Kevin moved to Colorado in 1972 to attend the Colorado School of Mines. Kevin worked on his degrees in geologic engineering, and then on to New Mexico for a master's degree. He is a true observer of the nighttime sky, and here to share his experience with you and the rest of the audience on the wonders of the heavens. With that, we welcome Kevin McKeown. Kevin, good morning. Thanks for staying up with us, and how are you this morning?
Pretty good, yeah. Thanks for inviting me, Stephen. I really appreciate this.
I appreciate you, and for many years I know you were listening to me on other national programs, and you always gave, high marks, at least from the sense of not me standing on a soapbox, but at least we talked about what we're going to get into right now, not the physics of the subject of astronomy. Obviously people can learn that in school, but more to the side of how to enjoy the wonders of the nighttime sky. So Kevin, obviously a native of Long Island, you moved out here to the west, you're in New Mexico currently. Tell us your passion for this subject, because it's very much addictive to many people who love the beauty of simply going out at night and looking up at the wonders that are out there.
Well, I got my start in stargazing back in 1962 when I first saw the Orion Nebula in a pair of binoculars. But that was in Plainview, New York, when the night sky back then was actually pretty darn good. And then when we moved to Huntington, the Andromeda Galaxy was actually a naked eye object back in 1965. So the skies back then were actually pretty good.
Yes, and we've talked about light pollution as the big nemesis for everybody. And let me mention, too, also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in light-polluted cities like New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, we want to leave you with some positivity here, that there's still many, many things that you can actually see in the nighttime sky. And let's begin with this conversation, Kevin, that I think is so fascinating. The mysterious subject of eclipses. And I know both of us have this long history of observing both lunar and solar eclipses. But I want to get into some of the meat. You claim to have seen how many lunar eclipses? I find that incredible. How many have you watched?
Well, about 22 to my recollection. And those are total lunar eclipses, so partial lunar eclipses, you can add in maybe another 10. So I know I'm dating myself, but the funny thing is, living in western United States, I've never missed a total lunar eclipse. And we have a really nice one coming up here on March 3rd, so don't miss that.
Absolutely. People all over the listening audience of this particular radio show, the Dr. Sky Experience, will be filling you in as we get closer to that, and maybe, if time permits, give them a little tip on that. But the mysterious one, Kevin, and I know many people out there may have questions about this, the wonders and beauty of solar eclipses, and particularly those of totality. Talk about your experiences with total eclipses of the sun and how rare they are.
Well, the problem with the total solar eclipse is it covers a very small portion of the Earth's surface, whereas a total lunar eclipse can fill an entire side of Earth, okay? So to see a total solar eclipse, you have to do some traveling, basically, unless it comes to your doorstep, like in 2017, Wyoming, or 2024 up from Texas to Vermont. You know, so
that's amazing. Yeah. You're so right about that, and I want to go back in time to something that I find fascinating for our New York area listeners, the tri-state area. Back on January the 25th of 1925, how about that? There was this total solar eclipse that was visible in the New York City area. Now, many people may be wondering, well, why do I need to know about something that happened more than 100 years ago? Well, here's an interesting point. People that lived, let's say, north of 96th Street in Manhattan got to see the totality, and if you were just south of that, you were not in the path of totality. But there's a reason I'm mentioning this, and this, to me, ties both, Kevin, with the aviation side that we talk about, and astronomy. I didn't realize this until somebody emailed
Josué
me.
de la Cruz. This is
the email went like this.
The TEF
Dr. Sky, why don't you share with your audience something else that
radio
happened in that New York City eclipse of January 25, 1925.
TEF 6686.
The Germans had built these gigantic Zeppelins.
Radio.
And this one was known in Germany as LZ-126. It was brought over to the United States as ZR-3. Why am I mentioning this? It was 658-foot-long gigantic Zeppelin. And what they did, the astronomers, this is the first time in history that people actually got into an airborne position in which they watched the total eclipse. So that thing was flying around or floating around the New York area, and the astronomers on board, because of the limited visibility, they got some rather poor images. But that's incredible that this giant airship was floating over New York City. And I wonder out there, ladies and gentlemen, for anybody whose grandparents may have shared that experience, who talked about it, not only seeing the eclipse.
I'll talk a little bit
Kevin, could you
on the
imagine
break. I'll
seeing
talk
this
more about
large Zeppelin, which was then called
thank
the
you.
USS Los Angeles, taking part in an observation right over the city of New York? That's amazing.
Well, well, first of all, what's interesting about that eclipse was, I think it was about 10 degrees above zero in New York City that day.
You said it well, yes. Right.
And but there has been an effort to chase total solar eclipses to get a better view of the sun's corona at very high altitude or high elevation. For instance, the great cross-country total solar eclipse in 1878, there were missions to the top of some of the 14ers in Colorado to observe the sun's corona. I think Pikes Peak was one of them. But that was an incredible eclipse.
And Thomas Edison, of great electric fame and other great inventions, phonographs, ... He also was out in Rawlings, Wyoming, I understand.
Right.
As a young man, imagine in those days, with all that equipment that they had to bring out there to the desolation at the time, that must have been some heck of an experience. But ladies and gentlemen, if you've had experience with the eclipses, I'd love to hear from you, because there's a safe way to do this. Obviously, these solar glasses are the way to view it safely, but are they all safe? And our conversation, goes to the phone number, 1-800-848-9222, to all the listeners out there of the Dr. Sky Experience. But let's go back. My first total eclipse was March 7, 1970. I remember driving down with my dad. I couldn't drive, but he did. Down to Perry, Florida. We were in a big rainstorm. We got to see nothing but darkness and rain. But then the beat goes on. So talk about the wonders of these eclipses, because I find this to be amazing, Kevin. If anybody's not seen one, we have some information on future ones that people might be able to see.
They're very addictive. And as more and more eclipses occur around the world, there's more and more effort to go see them. And we have a really big one coming up here in 2027, and that's the one that you can actually see from Spain, okay?
Yes.
And but the problem you have is many of these eclipses now are booked up, okay? So I don't know what to say. I didn't get in my, my booking yet, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
No, I know. You'd spend a lot of money to see these, and some of these folks are very addicted, whether they be cruise ships. I wonder how many listeners have ever been on a cruise ship to see one of these. But I don't want to spend the whole program on this, but I wanted to highlight, with your education to add to this conversation, August the 12th of 2026, the observational opportunity occurs where? Somewhere over Spain. It starts in other maybe inaccessible places, But if people want
right,
to see one of these, talk about that eclipse for a moment, if you will.
Well, the problem with that eclipse is it comes in over, I believe, Iceland, and then heads down near Greenland, and then ends in Spain. But when it ends in Spain, the sun will be very low in the sky. So I'm not thinking about going to that eclipse, although the astronomy club I belong to is offering a package for about $7,500 to go to Spain. But the sun is going to be very low in the sky, so you may not see the corona that well.
Yes, that's important. You know, if you want to get the most out of a total solar eclipse, folks, if you haven't seen one, and again, we're not doing this as far as being a tourist, touring agency or a travel agency by any means, but this is fascinating. Here's the big one that I would like you to comment on. This one's fascinating, and maybe many people now have a chance to book or do something with an eclipse like this. August 2, 2027. The story goes like this, ladies and gentlemen. The longest total solar eclipse that you'll probably ever see in your lifetime. Nothing can be longer than about 7.5 minutes, let's say. But this one will be well into the high 6s. And where will it be best? How about this? If you can be in Egypt, along the Nile, in areas that have, so many artifacts of Egyptology, pyramids and stuff. Can you imagine being in that area, seeing something that the ancient Egyptians looked to with great accuracy and predictability? Isn't that amazing?
It's going to, well, I should add, it's going to go directly over the pyramids, okay?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
that's totally
that time of the year in Egypt, there's virtually no chance of a cloudy sky or rain.
Yes, that's a good thing. And it'll be very dry, ladies and gentlemen, and extremely warm. But like here in Phoenix, obviously we're used to the heat. But the good part about this eclipse is, if you're going to make that kind of a journey, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have names of travel agencies. You can look them up yourself. Obviously, a most momentous experience. And Kevin, you've seen how many of these total eclipses? I mean, this is something to mark. Many people have seen one or none, but how many have you seen?
Well, I've seen 4, okay, which is pretty good. But there was a fellow from the New York City area, Barry Gordon, who chased total solar eclipses from around the world after his retirement, and he was said to have seen 22 of them.
Amazing. Totally
That's crazy.
incredible. It is.
Yeah.
The excitement for those that haven't seen it, not to steal the thunder away from actually seeing one, you get this anticipation. We were up in Idaho in the area when we watched the August eclipse in 2017, August 21st. And that, to me, was one of the most memorable events because all the other total eclipses either had rain, had bad skies, everybody else had some disappointment. But in that one, I know you were out there in the western states, we got to see something really strange. So describe this thing just before totality. You see this amazing shadow coming at you, which looks like the end of the world, if there's such a description. And then you get to see what, Kevin? You describe it because it's something you have to see, folks, if you want to talk about one of the best sights in nature.
Well, first of all, you want to know which direction to look to see what looks like a thunderstorm moving in, and that's your shadow coming in over you.
Right.
Okay? But when the sun goes out, I have to warn people to be very careful to not look at the direct sun, except in the few seconds before totality. You can actually look at a phenomenon called the diamond ring effect, okay? And that's the last bit of sun present, and then the inner corona forms the ring of the diamond ring, and it's got to be the most beautiful and memorable part of a total solar eclipse I've ever seen.
Yes, I have seen it a few times, and maybe listeners out there have. If you have questions about all these things in the generic world of astronomy, Kevin McEwen, he's with us. He's our special guest at the top of hour number 1. And he's here, ladies and gentlemen, to share not the science, the technical stuff, the wonders and beauty about going out there in the nighttime sky, because I read your columns and your emails that you send, and ladies and gentlemen, he gives us a very good analysis of things from what I consider to be the practical side of the world. What's that when you're looking at the sky? He talks about seeing these beautiful things that you can see, and even if you live in a light-polluted city, there's still objects we're going to get to, folks, so there's not despair out there. But of course, the deeper and darker you get away, from the lights of cities, you get away from the lights, common sense prevails. that would help you in your viewing of the nighttime sky. And that is fascinating, Kevin, to talk about, because your observing location is where? In the environs of Albuquerque, New Mexico, am I right?
Yeah, but Albuquerque's night sky is pretty bad now, so I have to get, say, 40 or 50 miles out of town to get a nice sky with the Milky Way present. So
Interesting. And I wonder how many listeners have ever seen the Milky Way, because according to statistics, and I read like you do, it's amazing. It's like maybe 1/5 of the entire world population, and if we push it to, 8 billion souls, they've never seen this majestic big arm of the galaxy. And some may say, well, why do I even care about seeing it? Well, let me try to change the subject and not be a convincing person, but do it through the beauty of what's simply out there. You don't have to have a PhD in the subject to enjoy it, and just to see think of it this way, and I don't want to go on too long here. Imagine what the people 100 or 200 years ago had when they could look at the sky. That was more like, how do I say this? That was more like therapy, don't you think, than compared to what we can't see today?
Well, there's one question I get asked from time to time. When I'm out with stargazers out in the country looking at the Milky Way, I get the question, can we ever go to the Milky Way? And the answer to that is, you are part of the Milky Way, okay? Because your gravity of your body is applying to the entire Milky Way galaxy. So you don't have to go anywhere to be part of the Milky Way galaxy.
Kevin, you say it so well. We're part of this big spiral, one of trillions of galaxies. So when we move into Saturday night's program and into Sunday morning on the Dr. Sky Experience, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of those technical questions about things that we talk about that even the great scientists, if they're honest about it, and most are, they really don't know what dark energy and dark matter is. And as we dig deeper, not into the big, widespread view of the universe, but how about going deeper into the quanta, the tiniest of particulates in the world? And what do they say? The scientists say, Kevin, we only see, 4% of the entire universe because of not of our inability. It's just that the rest of that big shebang is just not visible or understood by us at this point in time, correct?
Well, something like 80% of the makeup of our cosmos, our universe, is dark energy, okay? And no one knows what that is.
Exactly.
And then dark matter makes up another, 25% or thereabouts. And then baryon matter, what we're made out of, is only 5%, roughly.
Yeah,
so
you say it so well. The baryonic matter that we're made of, ladies and gentlemen, again, not to diminish the value of the human nature or the human spirit or the human itself, but it's something that's why we do programs like this. That's how this whole thing started. The question is, and how can we learn about these many mysteries of the universe when we're busy during our daytime hours that we run our lives for the most part? When the sun rules our lives, there's a whole other world, ladies and gentlemen, out there, and we talk deeper into the night. Apropos for this program, don't you think, as we move way past the halfway mark of a month already into the new year, January 2026. Your questions, comments, and observations, as always, are welcome here as we talk about this Theater of the Mind program, the Dr. Sky Experience at 1-800-848-9222. We have a few minutes, Kevin, before the hard break in radio and television, as you know, at the bottom of the hour. So talk about the value of a pair of binoculars. When we'll carry this on after the break, too. Talk about the value of what you can do. You don't need a big, giant telescope if you're not financially ready or even technically ready.
Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The interesting thing is, I'll drag a big telescope out into the country to do some deep sky work, okay? But then what I find myself doing is putting out a lawn chair and just surveying the sky with a pair of 10 by 50 millimeter binoculars all night long.
That's amazing.
It's like, well, what did I do all night? Well, I just relaxed and had fun enjoying the night sky with binoculars.
That's right. Yeah, it brings to me a whole new level of kind of like awareness, because not to get overly philosophical, I mean, it's so beautiful, and who would deny that? I mean, if you're out there in tranquility and you have the rareness of a dark sky, and if people, like I said, don't despair, if you live in brightly lit cities, we're going to give some advice on what you can see throughout this entire calendar month, and you really don't have to go that far from the New York area, let's say, or any other major city out there. And a pair of binoculars. Describe what 10 by whatever, 10 by 50 means so everybody understands what that means.
10 by 50, it's 10x, so that's the power, the magnification, okay? And then 50 millimeters, that's 2-inch, so those are lenses that are 2 inches across, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're older, like I am, you want to go with at least 10 power or 10x, because when I was a kid, I was using 7 by 50 binoculars, and those have a very large exit pupil that can fit inside, young eyes like what I had. So if you're older than about 40 or 50 years, you want to go with 10 by 50 binoculars. Otherwise, your pupils are not going to open up wide enough to get all the light coming in from what's out there.
And another good reason for binoculars, let's say you're going to sporting events, if you're out there and interested in nature, we talk about the sanctity of birds and ornithology. We get experts on that show. You can use them for multi-purpose things and other imaginary things that I'm sure people can use them for. But the interesting thing here is, Kevin, when we talk about this, not bending anybody's arm. I mean, who would not think that a night out in the country, and that's what I'd like to hear from this audience. What was your most beautiful night? Where? And the kind of experience that you had when you looked deep into the nighttime sky. And right now, though, some of the other problems we'll bring up in the next portion of the Dr. Sky experience after the break is now the plethora of man-made satellites. Right, Kevin? I need to get you on a dark topic, but the sky is just, overpopulated with satellites visible in the sky.
Well, it's just crazy. And the Starlinks now are photobombing any astrophotography early in the evening and then before twilight. Now, the first thing I do usually when I'm out in a dark sky is break out the 10 by 50 binoculars and just watch dozens of Starlink satellites drifting through the field of view. And at times, I will see as many as 6 or 8 Starlinks at one time moving through my night sky low in the western northwest. And it's just crazy.
I know. They're populating. Look, there's a value to what Starlink and Elon's doing. But unfortunately, from the astronomy community, we might be a small minority out there, which is a sad truth. But for the point is, if you go out in the nighttime sky, many of the things are not, they are UFOs to everybody if they don't know what they're seeing. Kevin, we got to take a break as we call this the hard break coming up here. Kevin McEwen is our special guest. We're at 1-800-848-9222. Subject matter, what you can see in the heavens. Advice from someone who knows this subject very well. That is our special guest. And when we continue on the other side of the Dr. Sky experience, we'll get into more of how you can take advantage, even if you're a city dweller, and see some amazing sights. We'll be right back on the Dr. Sky experience.
Coming up at 5 a.m.
All right. Hello, Elmer Time. I hope you're doing well. Josue, this radio is a TEF 6686. I bought this radio about 3 years ago from AliExpress. At the time, I paid about $65 for it. It was a Black Friday sale. This radio, you can get it for about $80 now if you shop around. They have different models of this radio. This is the old school model. They have one. This a smaller one. It's vertical. Now it has buttons. It has a keypad. They have different ones. The one I'm going to look for next is the Deep Elect DP666. It's this radio, same radio. It's just a different color, but it has a keypad. It has buttons. That rate is about $85 or so. They're very good radios on all bands. On FM, AM, shortwave, and longwave. Very sensitive, and they're very good on FM for DXing. Okay, so definitely it's one of my best radios that I have. I really love this radio. It's one of my best radios. This is the radio I take with me when I travel. This one and this guy right here, they both have the same chip, the car chip, TEF 6686 car chip. So they're awesome radios. And I don't know if James Farley is calling in. He said he might call into the show. Okay, so there's still... Yeah, exactly. That radio is said to be awesome for AM. Yeah, it's also great for AMDXing also. It is. Although with this antenna, not so much. Not with this antenna. Oh, yes, the DX286. I enjoy mine, yeah. So, hello, RT08.
Under a new state law in Texas, and councilman.
Okay, they're still talking in commercial there, still on break. Yeah, so definitely, this radio is nice radio. Of course, this radio was my FMDX web server for a few months. So now I took it off FMDX web server duties. Now I got the SPI HF plus Discovery SDR as the FMDX web server, which is online right now. So if you go to fmdx.org and you go on the FMDX web server, my server is there right now. FM radio on the SPI HF plus Discovery. Okay, back to Dr. Sky.
To the sky, 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hello, this is Dr. Kip Thorne, Professor of Theoretical Physics at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena, California, and you're listening to the Dr. Sky Show.
A sunset is the sun's fiery kiss to the night. So says poet Crystal Woods. At 33 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with our Theater of the Mind presentation, the Dr. Sky Experience, now probing deeper into the mysteries of the night and how you can take advantage no matter where you live, whether it's a light-polluted city or the darkness of the countryside. There's something for everyone. Our special guest at the top of this hour is Kevin McEwen. He, of course, a serious stargazer, and has taught this subject and is involved, ladies and gentlemen, in our conversation. Welcome back. Let's continue now to say hello and say good morning to Dale in Rye, New York. Hi, Dale. You're on with Kevin McEwen. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, Dr. Sky. Hello, Kevin. I experienced the March 7th, 1970 eclipse in Norfolk, Virginia. I was in the Navy at the time. I was on the USS Independence, CVA 62. Wow. We were tied up to Pier 12, and they let us go up on deck and watch the whole thing. And of course, it was, the sun disappearing and all. It was interesting. But the most interesting thing was the confusion of the seagulls. All the seagulls flew over, going to their nighttime roosts. And then when it got light again, they were coming back over, going the other way, back out to their feeding area.
It's amazing, wow. Dale. I was there in that eclipse, too. Where were you, may I ask, before Kevin responds? Where were you when you saw that in 1970?
It was in Norfolk, Virginia, on Pier 12 on the Navy base.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. But no, I do hear you now. That's fascinating. We were in Perry, Florida, not to be overly redundant. We were sitting out in the field, like a big football stadium, pouring rain, darkness came, no eclipse, but Kevin, isn't this interesting what Dale's telling us? This is fascinating to hear about
the thing, let me share. I was at Montauk Point for that eclipse, and unfortunately, it wasn't 100%. It was only like 99.5% of totality. Mm-hmm. But the problem was that the cloud bank moved in right at mid-eclipse and obscured. It was actually possible to see the corona from Montauk Point, but the cloud bank ruined it. And by the way, 54 years later was the repeat of that same eclipse in the Ceres cycle, and that was 2024. So if you add 54 to 1970, you get 2024. And I had to make sure I was going to see the eclipse in 2024. So I drove all the way to Burlington, Vermont to see that event.
Yes, that's amazing. Dale, I'm really happy to hear about, your right observations there, but you get the last word. We always give our callers an opportunity to respond back. Please continue if you'd like.
I think we should wait around another 54 years for the next one. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I got some news for everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news of our own. The New York City area, and Kevin, I think you probably know this, but Dale, here's some information, and everybody out there. May 1, I know it's ridiculous, 2079, there will be a total solar eclipse that actually begins, I believe, right there in the New York City area. So Coney Island and Staten Island get to see the sun. How about this one? Literally on the ocean, on the horizon, in what would look like a total eclipse. That's the strangest one, don't you think, Dale? May 1st, 2079.
Well, it would be interesting. I don't think I'm going to be around for that one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be around for that either.
Well, we'll talk about some things, guys and gals, that have relevance to when you can see it.
Unless I'm approaching 150
if I
years
was a
old.
betting man, and sometimes I better be careful with eclipses, right there, Kevin, because you can bet all you
do the
want.
math.
August 2 of 2027.
Yeah, that'll be like, I'll be approaching 120.
A guarantee, because it's right there by the pyramids, deep in the heart.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Along the Nile.
Yeah, that'll be just under 7 minutes. Now, I saw the Saros predecessor of that from Mazatlan, Mexico, and I had 6 minutes and 45 seconds of totality.
Right, and that doesn't seem like a lot to people, but when you look at total eclipses, every second counts. Dale, thanks for being part of the show. I hope we've answered, or at least you had a chance to testify about the March 7th, 1970 event. Thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it.
What's interesting, Dale mentioned the seagulls, but when I was at Mazatlan, we set up next to 13 beehives, commercial beehives. And when totality hit, we had millions of bees coming in from every direction.
Totally amazing. The animals do something. See, that's another subject. I mean, I'm not the expert on animal behavior, but I've watched birds, I've watched ants. But my attention, where it should have been, was up on shooting the thing and the cameras with our photo team. So that's interesting. Let's continue with the great callers here. Let's say good morning to Alexi in Queens. Alexi, good morning. You're on with Kevin McEwen. How you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm very happy to speak with you today.
Thank you.
Look, I have one or two questions for you. I recall there was a professor, and then now he's Dr. Albert, who is a physicist, who conducted an experiment some 45 years ago concerning the effects of what happens when we have an eclipse of the sun. He was perched on a very tall building in New York City, and he had radiation detection equipment, specifically gamma rays, X-rays, and such. And as the eclipse proceeded, the count went up considerably. It went up quite high, and of course, when the eclipse is over, the count returns to normal. Can you explain that?
Kevin, that's fascinating. I know what we also talked about before is Thomas Edison developed something that he devised to detect infrared. But what do you know about that, Kevin? That's interesting, what Alexi's talking about.
Now, exactly what was the caller doing or trying to describe? Was it an instrument on top of a building?
I think he was using an instrument, Alexi can say it better in his words, that was there to detect, as you said, Alexi, what? Something to do with energy from the sun or from the sky, and things decreased or increased during the eclipse. Which was it? They increased?
It was an increase during the eclipse of X-ray and gamma ray, quite an increase according to Dr. Abbott. And after the eclipse, it gradually returned to what one would call normal. Could you explain why that happened?
Kevin, you want to take a shot at it? I don't know that.
Yeah, because see, X and gamma rays are not going to make it down to the Earth's surface. That's why you have to have satellites, up there in orbit about the Earth. But I'm just thinking it might have been possible to detect very soft X-rays coming in from the sun. But remember, the corona might have been the source of these X-rays. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking maybe I got to look up this experiment.
Yeah, I know, Alexi. I'm not familiar with it either, but going back to a similar experiment, not to be overly repetitive, we had this with Thomas Edison when he was in Rawlins, Wyoming. He developed, Kevin, this device that was detecting energy in the form of infrared rays from the sun. I mean, look at the genius there, trying to find out more about those mysteries. It's amazing.
Well, a lot of infrared can make it to the surface of the Earth, but still, that's another part of the spectrum that you need to put satellites in orbit.
Makes sense. That's why we flew on Sophia, the big 747 telescope that goes up into the high part of the stratosphere to get away from the moisture in the atmosphere. Alexi, you get the last word. We always give our callers an opportunity to respond. Go ahead.
In fact, I had the second question, but I will keep it brief. About 230 years ago, there was a French scientist. His name started with an L. I don't recall. He speculated that the planet originated by a close collision of the sun with another star, a very almost dead star, and it drew the material of hence forming the solar system. Do you have any idea who that might have been?
Well, sounds like something that this Emmanuel Velikovsky could have put out. But that might have been possible, but that would have occurred billions of years ago if it did happen, okay? I kind of doubt it. I want to say that the solar system was formed by a cloud of particles that condensed around the sun rather than pulling material off the sun. Now, the Earth may have been struck by something very early on in its origin that created the moon. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, here we go. With one commentary, we got to go because of the time, not because we don't want to hear or listen or speak here. But the reality is, Alexei, there was a theoretical star called Nemesis.
Yeah.
And what that could be, Kevin knows about this too, that maybe millions of billions of years ago, there was a close encounter like a shaving to our star, the sun. And what you're saying, Alexei, could very well be true when material was pulled off to formulate what we call a solar system. But you know what, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen out there? It's probably such a long time ago, there's no definitive identified object which we know of officially with an orbit of an object like a star called Nemesis at this time. Alexei, thank you as always for being part of the Dr. Sky experience. And these are fascinating things. That's why we're glad to be able to have the microphone for the 2 hours on the Dr. Sky experience to talk about mysteries and the strangeness of the universe, right, Kevin? This is interesting.
Well, I might mention that Nemesis and this Nibiru, this planet Nibiru, they've been thoroughly discredited. I mean, I'm not going to, call it just absolute nonsense, but these ideas have been discredited. And Nemesis is supposed to be a brown dwarf, but we can see brown dwarfs so easily with infrared telescopes now. There is no such thing as Nemesis.
You're absolutely right. Time is what the clock rules here, and again, we have to go to another break here in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still interested in calling, 1-800-848-9222. If you're Clyde in Texas, Mike in St. James, Robert in North Carolina, well, we'll try to get everybody on as we move to the top of the hour. We'll be right back on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The movie Marty Supreme is now in theaters.
I guess James is not on the queue right now. He just named the next 3 callers. So I don't know if James is on the queue. He said he was going to try to call in. Anyway, I hope he calls in. Anyway, all right. There you go. So, Dr. Sky Show. It's anyway for all you people that are new here. WABC 770 out of New York City. Dr. Sky is on from midnight to 2 a.m. on Friday night / Saturday morning. And then he's on back tomorrow or later on tonight from midnight to 2 again. So he's on the weekends. So I like this addition to the programming. I like WABC when they put the other programming on the weekends. That's not political. So that's why I enjoy this. It kind of gives me the coast to coast vibes. Okay.
Hello, America! Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the incomparable Dr. Sky program, one of my idols. He is a man of science.
Lloyd Lindsay Young right there.
The true joy of a moonlit night is something we no longer understand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that too, yeah.
Men and women of old.
Thank you, Mike B. Yeah. His podcast on iHeartRadio also, yeah.
Night. Origin unknown. As we continue, 46 minutes, how time flies, on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's continue with our callers here. Let's say good morning to Clyde in the great Republic of Texas. You're on with Kevin McKee.
Hey, have you ever heard of the Kessler effect?
Say again, sir?
Have you?
I'm sorry, we lost you again. Going for try number 3 there. Go ahead, sir.
I said, have you heard of the Kepler effect?
Oh, yes, I sure have. And that's when those satellites, if you get too many satellites and they all bang into each other, right, Clyde, in Texas, you get just a disaster of material that's floating around up there that can be dangerous to other spacecraft. Kevin, you were describing the number of Starlink satellites. So, Clyde, that's really a phenomenon. That's pretty serious, don't you think?
Yeah, it's possible. I haven't researched that phenomenon that much, but there's at least 10,000 or nearly 10,000 Starlinks up there. Add another 4,000 or 5,000 satellites from other countries, and then on top of that, there's like 40,000 large pieces of junk. And if they start banging into each other, or if one of them does something to create a whole bunch of smaller particles, it can produce some kind of a chain reaction between other satellites.
Right. The Kessler effect, as Clyde's describing. And Clyde, you know, something interesting here. I have it in my hand and I watch it. The movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. It's very interesting. When you take a look at what the destruction happens in space of this, you know, this hypothetical space station, it's kind of interesting to see with all the debris from satellites that either were, detonated, destroyed, or collided, like the Kessler effect.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde, if you're with us, you got the last word, and I think we're spot on with the Kessler effect, right?
I'm glad to hear that for real.
Yeah, it is, my friend. And I think it's going to happen more and more, sadly. We need to have what? Garbage collection up in space, and that's another growth industry. If anybody out there wants to invest billions of dollars or try to do whatever it is to make it, right, Kevin? That could be a growth industry for just getting a vacuum in space.
Yeah, I mean, if your orbit is less than about 220 miles, this stuff is going to come down
MTV satellite still up there
before too long. But above 300 miles, it's going to stay up there for a long time.
You're right. We say good morning to you, Clyde, in the great Republic of Texas. I love that state. Let's say good morning now. They've been patient on the line. Robert in North Carolina. You're on with our special guest, Kevin McEwen. How are you doing down there?
Hi, good morning. Pretty good. I try to see every lunar eclipse that I can, especially the full ones.
Yes.
And everyone has at least got to see the rings of Saturn in a small telescope or larger at least once in their life with their own eyes.
You bet, Robert. Oh, gosh. You're right. Yeah, Kevin, you do a lot of that. I do a lot. And again, this is something interesting, Robert. I'm so amazed that the callers are calling on these subjects because it is very, what's the word? It's addictive. I mean, these total eclipses of the moon. Why don't you, Kevin, just describe what's going to happen? You were talking about March 3 across the United States and a good portion of North America. Describe to Robert the details of the next one.
Well, first I want to say that a lunar eclipse basically is proof that a flat Earth does not exist, okay?
Exactly. I love it.
Because you can see the shadow of the Earth falling on the moon, and it starts off as a penumbral eclipse, which is a very faint shadow, and then the partial eclipse occurs, and then as it gets deeper and deeper, you're going to see the redness of the Earth's umbra falling on the moon, and then as that last little bit of sunlight falling on the moon disappears, the moon is going to turn into what looks like a big copper penny. Okay?
Yes. That's true. And Robert, you're still with us, I know, because this eclipse, when we hear on the western part of the United States, will be a very early morning event for us. So in other words, the best for people who do not want to stay up late, but if you're a sky watcher, you're probably addicted to the darkness of the night. That one, I believe, takes place for the western part of the United States really early in the morning. And we can do a future show and update Robert and everybody on the more precise times and how to do that and where to get the information. Robert, you get the last word if you're still with us. I appreciate your commentary.
Yes, I was a teenager. I had a 60-millimeter refractor and a 6-inch reflector. And I was into astronomy. And boy, when I saw Saturn, I was just so fascinated. You could just see the tilt and the rings, and it's just like hanging there in the sky.
Yeah, you're so right, Robert. You know, you'll get a kick out of this, Kevin, I know. Many times when I'll take the bigger telescopes out and I show them Saturn, this year, of course, the rings are not as easy to see, but many people would come up to me and say, wait a minute, that's not real. Do you have like one of those Viewmaster things where you put a slide in there or something? And I go, no, it's really real. So, Robert, you're testifying on something that the ring system of Saturn is larger than the diameter of Jupiter, but be it so far away, without a lot of words, Robert, right? It's amazing to see it, and everybody should hopefully get a chance in their lifetime to see this unique, very strange planet. And unfortunately, the rings are going to disappear, right, Kevin, in about 300 million years, so take advantage.
Yeah, the disappearance was last year, so the rings are starting to open up. Now, you're going to have to wait maybe about 3 years to see the rings properly again, okay?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, but, you know, they're just totally beautiful. What can I say?
Well, Robert, without revealing your exact location, are you in darker skies, or are you pretty much sandwiched in a light-polluted city? Tell me. You don't have to tell me.
Now I'm in kind of darker skies than I was in Suffolk County, New York.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have the telescopes, but I've got a pair of 8x35 binoculars.
There you
for
go.
the time being, anyway. I have something at least I can watch with.
Absolutely, I can do a lot, as we both are talking about. You know, I'm going to give a website out here, Kevin. You know it well, but the audience may not. I recommend highly this website, theskylive.com.
Yes,
we get no, finances from this, and I'm mentioning it only because the gentleman is in Italy, and we communicate a lot. In other programs, I've been promoting it. You know, folks, and I know, Kevin, you're a follower of this big time. I have never seen a better website as far as giving us what we can see, how to see it, from comets to the planets to everything and star charts. Would you not agree, Kevin? Of course, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a very good website.
Yeah, it's amazing. So let's do this. Let's wrap it up. Thank you, Robert, in North Carolina. Keep doing, as they say, keep looking up, as one gentleman used to do on the public broadcasting, and sadly he passed away. And he always stood there with his little jackets from one of those companies. I forget. You remember who that was? The guy that was in the Miami Transit Planetarium. He used to do Jack Horkheimer.
Oh, yeah, that was gosh, what was his name? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was Jack Horkheimer. That's the guy.
Oh, yeah, Jack Horkheimer, yeah.
Right. Amazing guy. But, Kevin, give us some tips here. We always do the Sky Report here, and I give that out to people. Jupiter's the big deal right now. Talk about some of the things people can actually see, and we're talking to people now who live in bright cities. So here we go.
Yeah, okay. Well, things you can do from the city, from, right in the city limits, because I have a good friend that she lives in Valley Stream, okay, and the light pollution there is pretty bad, but you have planets, you have the planet Jupiter you can observe right now. It's just past opposition, so it's visible all night pretty much. You have Saturn going down in the west, and then, unfortunately, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are not visible right now. They're bunched behind the sun.
Yes.
If you want to use filters, an oxygen, an O3 filter can allow you to see around the light pollution and show up nebula very, very well. So the Orion Nebula will look just about as good as it will with an O3 filter if you're out in the country, okay?
So these are light pollution reduction filters, and they're not that expensive if you have a telescope, and you're amazed.
If you get an O3 filter, my gosh, you can do a lot right in the city. And the secret is these filters will allow a very narrow band through them and block out all the light pollution.
It's amazing. And then if you really want to go into it, ladies and gentlemen, and again, we're not selling these products. We probably should, because that's out there, the big vast interest, and that's another subject. But I bought myself one of these little computerized digital little telescopes. And I happen to have one of these little things that apparently, I have to use it, and I haven't started it up. You can put it in the light pollution of a city, right, Kevin? And you can set this thing up where it actually takes multiple images from brightly lit cities. I'm not kidding, folks. And it's called a dwarf. That's one of the models of one of the manufacturers. And what does it do? It actually shows you a picture as if you're way out in the country, because it stacks the images and does all the processing like the, quote, Photoshop.
Exactly, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Is that the C-Star thing?
No, I have one which is called the Dwarf Lab. If people look up, that's just one I have. We're not selling it here on the show, but hey, that's something that people, if you really live in a city, and they're not that expensive. I think I picked it up for like $300 or $400. And I tried it once, and I should, just lack of time here, no excuse. But that's what you do, ladies and gentlemen. And Kevin, I really appreciate your time. How do people get in touch with you if they have questions? Any way that they can correspond with you? Tell us.
Well, I'm at, should I give out my email address maybe?
If you so desire, go ahead.
Yeah,
You may be inundated, but I'm sure people want to hear from you, and I'm sure they can also email me, and I could forward it to you. My email here is just drsky@wabcradio.com. But go ahead, take a stab at it, see what happens.
Well, I'm at kmckeown2@yahoo.com, so that's KMCKEOWN2, that's the number 2, @yahoo.com.
Give it one more time and do it slow.
Okay, it's a KMCKEOWN2 @yahoo.com.
Okay, Kevin, the last question as we run out of time. The clock rules as we move through time and space. What's the most amazing thing you've seen in the number of years, which I'm sure is probably more than 50 years of viewing? Tell the audience from the visual side, what's the coolest and most incredible thing you've watched?
Maybe the Jupiter impact, the comet impact back in 1994, or the Leonid meteor shower when I counted 965 Leonid meteors in 1 hour. And that was the morning of November 17th, 2001.
Jupiter impact. That was pretty cool.
I watched that one too, and we were sitting on top.
I wish I would have saw that.
Home and somebody had.
I seen videos on that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Jupiter got hit with a whole bunch of meteors.
And we were sitting there.
And you can see on the surface of Jupiter, it really impacted the surface. It was
and we
pretty
must
cool.
have counted, as you said, hundreds of meteors, but we actually heard something unusual and videotaped it.
Yeah, I'm going to say the
One
Jupiter
of these
impact.
big, bright Leonid fireballs came down and created, which is often disputed, but was real, a sonic boom as it came through the atmosphere, and it was recorded by credible scientists.
Awesome.
Kevin, the clock rules. We move around this particular star called the sun, and I appreciate your time here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's do it again. And hopefully if someday I can get out to where you are, find me the darkest place you can, because we'll spend the whole night and we'll be viewing. And who knows, maybe we'll invite everybody from this audience. We have other ways to do that here in Arizona. But thank you for your time. And we'll move on to hour 2. We're expecting Dave Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org, updating us on things that are going on in the atmosphere. He's our go-to expert. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back on the other side of these commercial announcements. And
All right, so hour number 1 is over, and they're going to be hour number 2 any minute. Yeah, that Jupiter impact was pretty cool. I saw that back in the 90s. I saw videos. I saw, it was on TV. I saw the video on it. The impact got to the point where it affected the way the Jupiter looked. You know how Jupiter, you can tell it has a big red dot and all that? No, it was hit by a comet. No, I said meteor. No. It was hit by a small comet. A small comet hit Jupiter and it impacted the surface. And you saw like a black spot for a long time. And that black spot, if you were to put the Earth in that black spot, it's like, 100 times bigger than the planet Earth. The black spot. It was like, it got a comet hit Jupiter, a small comet. So, and you can see, you go look it up, and you can see black spots on Jupiter, and it was like that for a few months or whatever it was. And then, because Jupiter's a gas giant. Then of course, I guess the atmosphere absorbed that was it. But I'm going to say maybe it was a year, black cloud, where the comet impact Jupiter. It was just wild.
Officers, if we are on a target and doing
It's pretty cool.
operation, there may be
I wish I would have saw that on a telescope.
that we may be asking who they are and why they're there and having them validate their identity. Noem spoke to reporters at the White House Thursday and was asked about operations in Minnesota. President Trump is unveiling his health care plan. Details from Mark Mayfield.
Anyway, they're still talking. And then also, when they were talking about, seeing objects from with the naked eye, I remember as a kid in Puerto Rico, this is around 1970s, early 1978. I remember seeing the Skylab in broad daylight. I was looking up. I forgot what I was doing. I think I was just playing in the street. And I look up and I see a shiny object just, it was a clear day in Puerto Rico. And it wasn't a plane because it was really high. And then I finally, I guess I finally fixed my, I got locked in and I saw it. And it was the Skylab. It was definitely the Skylab. And at that time, it was already coming down. Because I remember right after that, it burned up and it crashed into the Pacific, right off the coast of Australia. The Skylab. That was our first, this is before the International Space Station and all that. We had a small satellite up there that they used to do experiments on. It was called the Skylab. And of course, they made history when they docked with the Soyuz. The Soyuz, I believe. Did it dock with the... Anyway, but that same year, the Skylab came down. I believe it. Yeah, I remember it was not long after that when I saw it. I can't remember exact time, the date, whatever, but I remember as a young boy, I saw it. And then right after that, it came down. It was already low orbit, and it just burned up in the atmosphere. And a few pieces made it all the way down into, I think some parts landed in Australia. But most of it, of course, burned, in the Pacific.
Schools this week.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That was the first time I saw a satellite with the naked eye in the sky. Of course, the ISS is a lot bigger compared to the Skylab. So the ISS, you can't see it with the naked eye. And there's apps that you can track it, and literally, if it's going right over you on a clear day, you can see it. And with binoculars, even better.
It's only getting worse. The NYPD says between July 1
and there you go.
week, school safety agents took in.
And RT's already said, OMT. Yeah, there's a lot of space junk up there. And like they said, the first one that creates a waste disposal in terms to go up there and get rid of the space junk, they're going to become very rich. Launch rockets that collect all the space junk and bring them back down.
And the Nasdaq fell.
That's a money-making business right there.
23,515. The White House says a number of new economic reports prove that President Trump is tackling affordability in the U.S. Tammy Trujillo has more.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt touted the latest core consumer price index showing inflation in check.
Since President Trump took office, core CPI has increased at just a 2.4% annualized rate, substantially lower than the 3.3% annual rate inherited from the Biden administration last January.
Leavitt said Trump is also addressing soaring home prices with the purchase of mortgage bonds. She also touched on the president's efforts to lower drug prices for Americans. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
In sports, the Seattle Seahawks are currently the best odds to win the Super Bowl, but it's a tight race up top. The latest odds from BetMGM Sportsbook list the top 5 teams as the Seahawks, then the Rams, followed by the Patriots, Bills, and Broncos. Your forecast overnight, increasing cloudiness with flurries toward morning, the low 33. Later today, a slushy mix of rain and snow with no accumulation with a high of 40. Sunday, mostly cloudy, but we could get hit with more snow. Cloudy skies outside our Midtown studios. I'm Lisa Ritchie. Remember, the news never stops. The WABC Radio.
Don't count out the Bears. They come back. They got magic. They have a magical season right now.
Always look to the sky. The Dr.
Underestimating the Bears.
Is
right, let me shut up.
77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
From the powerhouse Blowtorch, Talk Radio 77 WABC, broadcasting out of the center of the universe, New York City. We welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Dr. Sky Experience, often referred to as Theater of the Mind, with great guests, as always, from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, and would be remiss if we didn't mention stories of American exceptionalism. To get in touch with our special guest, the contact number is yours, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. In this episode of Theater of the Mind, we continue with serious subjects. A regular guest here on the Dr. Sky Experience is Dean Wigington. His website, geoengineeringwatch.org, is the place to be. A little background on our special guest. Dane is the lead researcher and administrator for the website, as mentioned, geoengineeringwatch.org, and is the executive producer for the groundbreaking climate engineering documentary, The Dimming. He has a background in solar energy and was a former employee of Bechtel Power Corporation and was a licensed contractor in California and Arizona. Dane has devoted the last 20 years of his life to the constant research on the issue of covert global climate engineering operations and the effort to expose and halt them. Without a hearty welcome, as we welcome you on the West Coast, good evening to you, and how are you today? Thanks, Dane, for being here.
My pleasure, Dr. Sky. Thank you for your continued willingness to investigate and expose what I would argue is the biggest untold story on the planet right now, and it's becoming ever harder to hide as the consequences from covert global climate intervention operations manifest by the day.
Yes. You're always a popular guest here, and again, ladies and gentlemen, questions and comments as we shift gears on subject. Again, 1-800-848-9222. You know, it's interesting. I opened up my computer about a week ago, and here in Arizona, and I know some of the legislators downtown, Republicans and Democrats, and I happened to look and see something that's come to my attention, and I think it's interesting to mention to the audience because it may be proliferating all over. The Arizona House of Representatives put forth a bill called HB 2056 entitled Geoengineering Prohibition, and there's many sponsors of this bill. Its overview, you know better, but let's enlighten the audience. It prohibits intentionally manipulating the environment through weather modification, aerosol injection, cloud seeding, or solar radiation modification. That to me is interesting because it goes right to the heart of what you talk about. Please continue, Dane, on this subject and how things are moving along.
Keep trying.
Define this bill in better detail than I did.
Well, this bill is quite well crafted. Representative Lisa Fink is spearheading this. There's a number of dedicated and assertive activists that are helping in that effort. GeoEngineeringWatch.org has supplied our printed materials to the representatives to help introduce the issues to others. And those printed materials contain things like, for example, the federal gag order on all National Weather Service and NOAA employees, the nation's weathermen. Why would our government feel the need to gag the weathermen? And the satellite images we have, Dr. Sky, are profoundly shocking in those printed materials because we capture images off the NASA feed, the NASA satellite feed, images that are so shockingly unnatural that NASA feels the need to, once they find those images, to delete them from their feed. We catch them first. So there are things happening in our skies that if people saw these images and tried to explain them away, it's not possible. They have to be seen to be believed. So again, we live in I would argue at this point, a very perplexing orbiting asylum in which this elephant in the sky can go on and on, obvious climate engineering, and in fact, to dispel the condensation trail narrative, which we have the so-called experts still trying to double down on. But we have up-close photographs of these aircraft, nozzles visible, turning dispersions on and off. We try to track them with flight tracker. Many of these aircraft, the military tankers, have their transponders turned off. Why would that be? We have them leaving massive trails over non-commercial routes, X patterns, ovals. We have field footage of them going one direction, leaving no trail, and the opposite direction hours later, leaving a massive plume, or vice versa. I mean, we have the whole global climate science community saying, hey, we want to put jet aircraft in the sky to spray light-scattering particles, but, that's not what you're seeing. it's becoming ludicrous at this point, Dr. Scott.
Well, Dane, let's continue here. I mean, everybody has seen what we described, these trails in the sky. And I mentioned to you, and you correct me quickly, I just used the term contrails. And let's not split hairs, because obviously we're talking about what's really going on, in your opinion, behind the scenes. So here I go out the other day here in Arizona, beautiful day, not to rub it in, 80 degrees, what, in January? Are you kidding me? That's another subject.
Yes.
But here's the deal. I'm seeing these trails literally across the sky in what I consider to be, because we're watching skies, people obviously look up, and we're seeing this unbelievable extension. Like after the trail goes by from the aircraft, the thing disperses to a big fat ribbon. And you're absolutely right. It's diminishing what would have been, I gather, if those planes weren't there, it would have been pretty much a cloud day or a beautifully clear day. So obviously those trails, that's incredible. I never saw so many, and I took many pictures of those, and I'm sure many listeners have seen that. Describe these in detail. You're giving us the information saying, in your opinion, there's something going on, spraying. Describe that in detail in case nobody's heard this particular show, or you as a guest.
Actually, again, I would refer to that it's not my opinion, it's not speculation, theory, hypothesis. When we have up close film footage of these aircraft, I only ask people to believe what they can see with their own eyes.
Good.
And as we took a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to altitude, top scientists, and this is in our groundbreaking documentary, The Dimming, which is the standard for this issue for an A to Z education on it, 26 million plus views on YouTube and counting. There's no commercials, there's no advertising, there's no politics. We simply want this exposed and halted. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Flying Lab that we were very fortunate to get at great expense and effort. No one will ever get access to that aircraft again, but top scientists in it, not a private party, I should say.
Okay.
And we measured what heavy aircraft were dispersing at altitude, processed that at Rensselaer Polytechnic in New York, one of the world's most renowned testing institutions, found exactly what we knew we'd find, starting with climate engineering elements like aluminum nanoparticles. That's a primary element named in climate engineering patents. And Dr. Scott, people might ask, aluminum, nanoparticles, bioavailable aluminum, isn't that toxic? Yes, it's extremely toxic.
Well, sure. I don't want to breathe in aluminum, and as you're describing, this is going on. And let me start from the beginning of this whole episode, as far as not the show.
Yes.
How long has this been going on from your research that now people are starting to maybe wake up about this? How long is this seeding of what particles, aluminum and whatever, how long has this been going on?
Global climate engineering operations were first deployed over the polar regions immediately after World War II. And we can see the initial effect in the global temperature rise graphing that on a temperature trajectory that was going almost straight up at the end of World War II, suddenly, unexplainably, it levels off. And we can't know how much of that was actual temperature decrease or data falsification, but we would expect a very profound initial response with these operations over the polar regions, which are the air conditioners of the planet, and before the negative consequences kick in, because this is like a drug of sorts, a very toxic, damaging, contaminating drug, but as the negative consequences kick in, that requires more and more atmospheric aerosol dispersions, and that's exactly what's happened. So as we lose the ozone layer, as we disrupt the hydrological cycle, as these toxic elements, again, in the case of aluminum, toxic to all life forms, period, bioavailable aluminum, and that's the key too. Many people, so-called academia, Dr. Sky would say, well, aluminum is a major part of the Earth's strata. We should expect to see it everywhere. Not free-form aluminum. Free-form aluminum does not exist in nature. If it's free-form aluminum, it's been mined, refined, and dispersed. Again, primary element named in climate engineering patents. Because it's so reflective, that's why they use it without any consideration of the consequences. So as the negative aspects kicked in, we saw a leveling off of temperatures. People might remember in the 70s, you might remember this, Dr. Sky. In the mid-70s, you had some of the climate science community saying, well, we don't know what's going on. Maybe we're entering an ice age. We don't know why the temperatures didn't keep going straight up. And people have used that as an argument against the climate science community. Well, they didn't know this was going on. As the negative consequences kicked in, temperatures started to go straight up again. 1998, the warmest year ever recorded to that point. And they doubled down on these operations, and they coined the term climate change because they knew what they were going to be creating flash chemical cool downs.
Let's go take it further down the line here. Let's say, as you described, I didn't know this. I think our audience is appreciative of hearing this. let's say you're talking about, as you reported, during World War II or ran after they're seeding the atmosphere, let's say the polar regions, with these aluminum particulates. Could that be a reason, I mean, simply, I'm not a weatherman, that you could say that this is forcing the polar vortex, which you see wide variations of the polar vortex. We hear this and see people all over the United States and around the world seeing a definitive change in how the winter is affecting. Look at the temperatures in the Southwest. We're looking here, I don't know what they are in California, but what they're saying here is we're looking at 80-degree days. I'll take it, but not if it's eventually going to destroy the entire climate of the Earth. So is that the direct thing? You're saying what? Not to put words in your mouth. The seeding of this aluminum particulate, even back by World War II, that's obviously what? Shifting the polar vortex, where if they didn't do it, maybe weather systems would be different, or what we called normal. Take it from there. That's interesting.
Let me back into this. First, we can say this definitively. There is no natural weather anywhere anymore. And the qualification for that is once you disrupt the entire system, you can't say that that event would have happened in that way at that place at that time. And indeed, the entire system is disrupted. We have countries around the globe actively or passively participating, again, not speculating. We're relying on government documents, some as long as 800 pages, posted at geoengineeringwatch.org. One particular document from 1978, U.S. congressional document 800 pages long, outlines the intergovernmental cooperation, even between, quote, otherwise adversarial nations, because of the cross-border ramifications of these operations. So, and worse still, although these toxic particles can and do lower daytime high temperatures or induce chemical ice nucleation, which is the flash cooldowns that we see happening, they trap more heat than they deflect. So they're adding more fuel onto an already damaged planet that's definitely heating rapidly, and every cooldown that they carry out worsens the overall meltdown of the planet. So this is not any legitimate form of mitigation, and we know these operations are being used for a form of covert weather warfare, and we have countries admitting that on the record. We have in the case of Iran on the floor of the UN with their meteorologists that have sophisticated monitoring equipment stating that the U.S. has been cutting, or NATO, this case they referenced, has been cutting off their precipitation for 40 years, and what do we have right now? We have that situation is so bad in Iran right now that they're talking about evacuating the capital of Tehran, a city of 10 million people.
Oh, yeah, and all the unrest going on top of that. That's a hellish place to have to be, but that's a whole other story. But, Dane, let me just jump in on this. So, folks, if this conversation doesn't light up the phone lines, I don't know what we could be doing to do it, and not because we want just people to just call. Obviously, the concerns that many people have out there, the number's 1-800-848-9222, a rare opportunity to speak with someone who's dedicated his life to the subject. And, of course, we always welcome him and his experiences talking about what's really happening out there as the world is changing. And I always say it this way, you follow the money. What's the backstory on this from all your research? Who's behind all this? And they always say, what? Follow the money on stuff like this. There's a reason, a deep-seated reason why they're doing all this.
It's bigger than that. There are disaster capitalists. We know we have weather trading derivatives and many making money from that arena. We have aluminum-resistant seeds from companies like Monsanto. So we always have disaster capitalists, but the ultimate underlying foundational motivation for these operations is far bigger. It's an attempt to pacify the population, to confuse the population as to the true level of damage already done to the planet, and they can do this by engineering cool down. So you just said you're 80 in Arizona. I'm in a formerly lush forest in Northern California at a elevation of over 2,000 feet. We should be very cold right now. Last night, 9 o'clock at night, it's 70 degrees.
Wow.
That's after dark with the warm wind blowing from the north. That's about 40 degrees above normal. Nighttime lows are warming twice as fast as daytime highs. So when they can engineer a snowstorm, for example, in Florida, which, by the way, is scheduled for the next few days, another snowstorm in Florida with lizards, the iguanas falling out of the trees because it's so cold.
Sad, yeah.
And 1 year ago, almost a year ago, January 21st, coincidentally, that was the date of the changing of the guard in this country, right? We had snowstorm in New Orleans and Florida. At the
Yes,
same
I
time.
remember that. Yes, I did. That's very unusual. I don't think New Orleans has ever had any incident
No,
where
never,
that much
never
snow
before.
accumulated.
You're
Right.
correct. Never before recorded. What didn't they tell us? On the same day, it was above freezing and raining in the Arctic Circle. Alaska, Greenland, Iceland, and Siberia, all over the Arctic Circle, above freezing and raining while there's a blizzard in New Orleans and Florida. On the money, on the funding, again, this is Black Ops money. Central bankers are behind it all, and we know this is a fact of record. Pentagon's missing, I think the latest figure is $31 trillion since about the year 2000. Where did that money come from, let alone where did it go to?
Exactly. And let's not hope that we're too busy not to pay attention. That's why we do shows like this. You know, and we're not conspiracy. At least this is what I'm saying. Let the guest speak on his own, with his own information. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, something is indeed happening here. And is it just aluminum particulate, or are there other things that you can tell us to add to the conversation of what this seeding might be all about? Is it just aluminum, or what else is coming down?
Well, we know from lab testing, and in fact, there's hundreds of lab tests done near the West Coast. In the University of Minnesota, about 500 more were conducted. So we have aluminum, barium. This is, in fact, there's likely many more elements, but unless we know what we're looking for, you can't find what you don't know what to look for. But we have aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, graphene. It's quite a toxic mix. And we have, when you mix elements, for example, we all have mercury in us because we have amalgam fillings, we have mercury used as an adjuvant in injections, vaccines, we have the coal fire burning plants that put mercury in the atmosphere. We're inhaling a certain degree of it, so we all have mercury in us. Now we have aluminum in us. Every person we test, hair, blood, urine, has aluminum.
Amazing.
When you combine those, it is scary because both elements are highly toxic in and of themselves. When you combine those two elements, we do have peer-reviewed study to prove that the overall toxicity, it's called synergistic toxicity, increases the overall toxicity by as much as 100 times. It's amazing any of us can walk and talk, but it's taking its toll on, for example, insect populations down 80 to 90% right now, globally. That should scare the hell out of people.
Well, let me ask you this on the personal, though, without naming people. I wonder how much negativity and, anti-gravity, using a science term, that you've taken on this, because not everybody, if you walk into these big meetings, I know you do a lot with these, town halls and these different city and state councils. I mean, obviously, some of these people are going to look at you and go, what? Tell us. I mean, not everybody's going to say, oh, Dane, yeah, you're right, let's stop this. What kind of resistance do you get? Talk about that.
Oh, a lot, and for a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons, because when I first started this journey 20 plus years ago, I could only hear my own voice coming back to me. But as people along the way in very high posts like the Canadian Minister of Defense, Air Force generals, former government scientists, legislators, as I've continued this journey and people like that have been woken up and they realize they are going down in the same boat. Half the boat doesn't sink. You don't have I've seen a cartoon of a boat as it's sinking. The front end comes up in the air, and you have the people in the front of the boat saying, sure glad our half of the boat isn't sinking. That's not how it works.
Right.
The whole boat goes down. So as people realize they're going down with the ship, they've joined this fight. And again, the gravity of this threat, the immediacy of this threat cannot be overstated because two of those elements I named, polymer fibers and graphene, are used militarily for biological carrier agents. What's that mean? Means to carry a pathogen from the clouds to the ground to infect the population below. And we have an audio, we own an audio of the world's second most recognized geoengineer, Dr. Ken Caldera, stating in his words what he did for the U.S. Department of Defense was to design pathogens to infect the population below. Imagine that. On the COVID outbreak, during one phase we had 85 countries infected in 3 days. That's indicative of an airborne dispersion. We had Italian scientists identify CV-19 attached to airborne particulates. And to add credence to all of this, we know from the Washington Post and other major media sources that even as far back as 1977, up to that date, the U.S. military had conducted no less than 239 open-air biological tests on innocent, unknowing U.S. civilians. I challenge anybody, everybody, research every single thing I'm saying.
And that's why I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions and concerns, I would imagine if there's any program that would light up the phone lines, 1-800-848-9222, on this very interesting conversation we're having, we like to call Theater of the Mind, opening people's minds on these great mysteries. And we're moving more into the weather side of the Dr. Sky experience when we talk astronomy, space, aviation, weather. But equally important, I suggest this, and Dane would, of course, wholeheartedly recommend you doing this. Go to geoengineeringwatch.org and highlight the website where you can actually watch this particular groundbreaking documentary entitled The Dimming. That's a very interesting one. I've watched it before, and you have so many people that are on the credible side. And describe it again. You have what? Former generals in the military. You have other serious scientists saying, watch out. Hopefully it's not too late because something's really happening in what the
Two U.S. Air Force generals, former Canadian Minister of Defense, former government scientists, former Fish and Game scientists, former U.S. presidential cabinet members. The list goes on and on. Top scientists as well. And to back up what you mentioned earlier on the manipulation of atmospheric wind currents, jet stream trajectories, the sprayed particulates, they're electrically conductive, and they ionize the atmosphere, which makes it more conducive for ground-based frequency transmitters like HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. Encourage your listeners, that's the acronym, to search.
Yeah, I know that one. Right.
You know that, so to search HAARP, look at the images. That's an ionosphere heater. It's played off as a benign research facility, which couldn't be further from the truth. It's a weapon of mass destruction. And HAARP and the patents or all available science data do not dispute this because it can cause an electrical chain reaction in the ionosphere by transmitting 3.6 million watts of power. And I hope it's clear I'm not shooting from the hip. I know this data inside out, upside down, backwards. So it can trigger an electrical chain reaction in the ionosphere that superheats that portion of the atmosphere that causes it to expand up and down. The downward push affects tropospheric.
And that's Nick Begich that we're talking about.
Yes.
When I started doing this ancient history, we used to have him on this HAARP subject.
Yes.
And of course, you're also going to discuss this in greater detail. But we're almost up at the break here, the hard break. And when I come back here with You're Okay, I'd like to get into this particular Arizona House bill and talk about the provisions, because this is not just for the people of Arizona. You're going to tell us that there's so many states that are also trying to do this, and the definitive provisions. I'll get into that, so you can comment on that. And ladies and gentlemen, an interesting subject here, because when you look out into the sky, what do we talk about? The Dr. Sky Experience. Our previous guest, as you know, we were talking with Kevin, talking about what you can see, and with the plethora of satellites and all other interference in the sky, obviously, even if you're not a big fan of astronomy, this one, I think, really knocks it out of the park. It's so interesting to listen to this because, I was watching the other day, not to be overly repetitive, Dane. I'm watching all these trails in great multitude across the sky, and now you're describing what these are. More with our very special guest, Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, here on the Dr. Sky Experience with you, ladies and gentlemen, 1-800-848-9222. We will be right back.
It's going to be cold outside.
All right. Yeah. All right, still busy. Yeah, he only takes a few calls. What he does, he talks to the guests. It's a 2-hour show, so the first half hour or so, or 20 minutes, 25, I think I'm going to say the first half hour, he talks to the guests. And then on the second half hour of each hour, that's when he has callers. He talks to the callers. So the last hour, he spoke to about 4 callers, I believe. So right now, after the break, he's probably going to start bringing in the callers. So he usually lets about 3 or 4 callers, and that's it. So if it's busy, I would just keep trying. Maybe somebody's going to drop out, and then you can just get in there. But that's all you can do. Because the phone lines are right there in New York City. It's right there. The studio's in New York City. But he's in New Mexico. So, of course, he's in his home. Just like Anthony Cumia. He's in South Carolina, but the studio's still here. It's like a remote studio. So you want us to talk about HAARP? There you go. That's what they're talking about.
People do what they do. If it's defending, you take over. You do what you got to do.
Right.
That's all. It's all right.
There's nothing we really can do about it. If you think about it.
You can arm and defend yourself like
but in numbers. But I'm talking about we stick together, yes. But singularly, what can I do?
Of course, with this radio, I'm using this antenna. It's a local station, so I'm okay with it. I should get the cable tomorrow or later on today, should I say. So connect this to a Turkey Advantage loop because this radio does not have a ferrite bar inside, by the way. So even though it's a great radio, it does not have a ferrite bar. So you want to listen to FM on there, you can put the included telescoping whip, or in my case, I use this one. So when you buy it, it comes with this. It works well, but for DXing, I want to hook this up with the wire. So I'll get that later on today. It should be here later on today from Amazon. All right.
I think that New Yorkers at this point are not being served well by the media. WABC is really now, and I was looking at our ratings, really the only voice that's talking about real-time benefit or harm.
Keep listening to 77 WABC. It makes you smarter. This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Carol Channing. Yes, I'm an actress, musical and all that. Well, I'm Dr. Sky Show, and always remember to keep your eyes to the skies.
I had a little hiccup right there, reconnecting. Wow.
The deliberate, large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate to offset global warming is a nightmare fix for climate change. So says author Jeff Goodell. 33 minutes after the hour, we continue discussing this. A very interesting guest, Dane Wigington. Geoengineeringwatch.org is his home base. And we continue here. This is interesting, the number of people that are calling here. Let's say good morning as we open up the phone lines to Pete in Staten Island. You're on with Dane Wigington. How you doing this morning? Thanks.
Hey, Dr. Sky. Pleasure to speak with you. I need your help here because I saw an eclipse in 1974. I was in Martha's Vineyard with, at the time, my girlfriend, Carly Simon. Now, the eclipse was in 1970. Did anything occur in 1974, maybe a partial eclipse? Because I am like battering my head. I was in 1970, I was 15. In 1974, I was 19, and that's when I was with her. So
you were lucky to be with Carly Simon because she talked about the eclipse up there. That was the one that we saw in July of 1972. But Pete, just to stay on measure, and I appreciate your question, do me this if you would. Send me an email at drsky@wabcradio.com because I don't have an answer, but I'm sure there was. Just send me a quick email and I'll research this.
I'm going to say that when she wrote that song, You're So Vain, whatever, it wasn't about this kid. He doesn't sound like somebody vain.
Geoengineering. Let's say good morning to Christine in Manhattan.
Yeah, okay. I got a bridge to sell in Brooklyn.
Fascinating subject, don't you think, Christine? How you doing?
It's fascinating beyond. It's incredible. And it's so amazing. My mind is boggled because I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah,
I was trotting around in Wegmans supermarket tonight, and as usual, as I always do, gossiping with other New Yorkers, we had a conversation exactly about geoengineering and how why is it 50 one day and freezing the next. We know something is going on. They're manipulating everything you talked about, but we didn't know the details. And this is New Yorkers. I talk with a bunch of people. Everybody knows something is going on with weather. So I want to ask you, is there a book that was published? You mentioned somebody named Jeff Goodell.
Well, I was mentioning, that was the quote that I was giving, but Dane is obviously encouraging people to go take a look at his website, to the dimming. So, Dane, why don't you jump in on this? Because
I would suggest
go ahead, please.
The dimming would give you an excellent A to Z with film footage of top experts, Air Force personnel, again, Canadian Minister of Defense, former presidential cabinet members, government scientists, list goes on and on.
That would give you the best A to Z. Again, it's at over, in spite of social media censorship, it's at over 26 million views on YouTube. There's no advertising. There's no politics. You can share it with anybody of any particular stripe, and they will look at the data only, which is all we care about in this scenario. And those cool downs you're speaking about, that's called chemical ice nucleation for weather modification. So as the days heat up, and it's extraordinarily warm in many parts of the world, if there's moisture available, they seed those clouds with chemical nucleating elements. These are patented processes. It creates a very cold, dense layer of air that sinks to the surface. It's just like you have your open-air freezer in the market with no top on it, but everything's frozen in that basin because the cold air sits in the basin. So these are toxic elements. They're very slippery. And if it's frozen precipitation, it's very slippery because there's surfactants in this mix. It's to keep the particles from coagulating together. So surfactants are what makes soap slippery. It's definitely part of the mix. Our tests prove it. So this is basically all of us on planet Earth are at this point lab rats in a global climate engineering Manhattan project with catastrophic consequences already. And there are many more layers to this that are even more nefarious. But the bottom line is the public needs to know. The public has a right to know.
Christine, you get the last word. Bringing up this subject is so important. Please continue. Did we lose Christine? Oh, go ahead, please.
Where do I get this information? Geoengineeringwatch.org?
Yes, exactly.
That's
correct, Christine.
We're the biggest website in the world.
You'll learn a lot.
And it can be difficult to find us on Google because Google's doing everything they can to censor us. But if you search geoengineeringwatch.org, you'll find us.
Yeah, Christine, it pops up on my phone, and it should pop up on yours. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate your time with us on these subjects, and it's great to talk about and with people listening that experience these subjects called geoengineering. Thank you, Christine. You know, I wanted to get back to this Arizona House bill. It may seem small to the whole nation, but HB 2056, geoengineering prohibition, I'm only going to read the 3 provisions, and I want you to comment on it, but take us out of the state of Arizona to all the other states that are doing this. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the provisions. It repeals and replaces existing statutes that prohibit a person or business from conducting any weather control or cloud modifications. 2, stipulates that regardless of any other law, a person cannot engage in geoengineering, which is a defined term. And 3, defines geoengineering as the intentional manipulation of the environment by polluting the Earth's atmosphere or surface through weather modification, aerosol injection, cloud seeding, or solar radiation modification. And I'm not going to bore the audience with reading all the way down this page, but the bill, as you know, you've studied this. This is what? Is this one of the first in the country to take a stab at this? Describe it and tell us where else this is happening in the country.
No, it's about number 36.
Oh, okay.
They have this legislation working on. It's already passed in Tennessee, Florida, Louisiana. And these bills are symbolic because they're not enforceable, but they matter. They matter because it's putting it on the radar for people. And part of the description...
So you're saying they're not enforceable? I didn't hear you.
Nope, they're not enforceable. So, again, there's no known way to enforce this yet because of the airspace where this is taking place. It's under federal jurisdiction.
You may have to, Dane, be in a better spot for this because we're having a hard time hearing you. Let's try it again if you move around a little.
I haven't moved. I'm on a landline. Shouldn't matter at all. I'm on a landline. Can you hear me?
Well, I guess we're going to have to call, Dane, if you can hear me, I think we're going to have to call you back and see if we can get a better connection on this.
There you go, James. Start dialing.
Studio thinks that's the best answer to this. What do you say, gentlemen? Okay, I think we lost Dane. But again, what we're talking about here, this is quite fascinating as you've been listening, ladies and gentlemen. So many people, I'm sure, want to jump in on the line. I'd be more than happy to handle as many of these questions as we can, but I'm not the expert. 1-800-848-9222, bringing us to the center of the conversation of what's really happening.
1-800-848-9222.
Very special guest, Dane Whittington, geoengineeringwatch.org. Let's try it again, Dane. We were losing you somehow through maybe a solar flare or some other activity out there. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm on a landline. I didn't move.
Yeah, that's really strange. If you're on a landline, wow,
I'm on a landline.
That's really bizarre.
Solid line. So the bottom line is, though,
yeah, go ahead.
Again, though it's not enforceable, the symbolic nature of this matters a great deal to wake people up to what's going on above their heads. We're hoping, for example, in the case of, I'm looking at some media that's covering Senator John Kavanaugh right now as part of this effort, and the term chemtrails is constantly being used. The article will indicate he's using it. That's a mistake. The chemtrails term, there's no science basis for the term. It's fine for personal conversation, but we're playing chess. We need to play effectively and efficiently. That is the instant marginalization term by the climate science community, by official sources, media. If we stick to the, and I'll give an example, by the way. Former Arizona Senator Kelly Ward. I don't know if you ever heard that name before.
Oh, I know her very well. I personally know her. I mean, and all these legislators like Kavanaugh, I mean, he was a native New Yorker. He's a fighter. And that's why I'm saying I brought this to the attention of this audience, not only because of Representative Fink, but I know him, and he doesn't suffer fools easily, in my opinion, nor does Kelly Ward.
I'm very grateful for him and Kelly. I'm grateful for both of them. I just want to give an example of that hopefully that Senator Kavanaugh will start to use the science terms, because Kelly Ward serves as an example. She went to a chemtrails meeting in Kingman, Arizona. The media immediately crucified her as Chemtrails Kelly, and
I am familiar. Yes.
So again, that didn't help us. If it was a geoengineering meeting, they wouldn't have labeled her geoengineering Kelly. They wouldn't have gone there. So again, we need to beat them at their own game. So semantics are important in this scenario. And the gravity, as we talked off air, Dr. Sky, the gravity and immediacy of this threat cannot be overstated. It's contaminating the entire planet with 40 to 60 million tons of toxic nanoparticles annually. That's a ubiquitous contamination. It's showing up everywhere. We have current peer-reviewed science studies, even one a few days old, indicating that this particulate pollution is exponentially worse than they have told us so far. And I'm not denying industrialized pollution at all. We know that's there. But we found manufactured nanoparticles in our testing of the atmosphere. That means it's not just industrial pollution.
Interesting stuff. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, still time. 1-800-848-9222 if you have concerns either way on this particular subject, as we do what we call theater of the mind. What is that, in case you're curious? The great mysteries are brought to our attention through the voice and, of course, the guest and myself as a host. But what we do is we talk about things that obviously we can't see, because this is radio. And we're wondering, your imagination can go, each different direction. But always great guest here on the Dr. Sky Experience. But Dane, when we come back from this particular break, let's talk a little bit more about these things and how people can really become the catalyst in this. I mean, legislators and stuff like that, that's good. But for the people that are listening to this particular show, to give us hope in a world where many things, like the Great Temptations song, the world is a ball of confusion, let's try to have some answers to stay positive in this brand new year. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Always great guest. If you happen to have some recommendations that you'd like to hear, no guarantee that we'll get them all, the email and any other emails you want to send me, just drsky@wabcradio.com. We will be right back.
This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra.
A New Jersey man has launched an online platform that allows people to plan out every single detail of their own funeral.
All right. Well, let me put it like that for about a minute or so. Yeah, I keep trying. Yeah, it's just busy. I know I called the station a few times, and it's always busy. So I think we need some kind of auto dialer or something. I remember back in the days when we had the landline, and it was what it was. Was it star 69? I forgot which one it was that you do that and it would just keep calling back. But it was another one. Anyway, that's a feature that, remember you had all these different features? So there was one, I think, that you put star something and it would just keep calling the number. And I would get through. I forgot what, but anyway, I don't have a landline. This is, of course, a cellular phone or mobile. So, but yeah, if you had a landline, I think that's what it is too. I think a lot of people have landlines and they do that speed dial thingy or, star 69, whatever it's called. Not Star 69, because Star 69 is callback. It's something else. It's another Star something. And yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, I used to do that. There's another Star. I think it's Star 82. I forgot what number it was. It was Star something. And you would do that and it would invoke the redial. And it really works. It would just keep on, and you would get through. It might have been Star 82. I forgot which one was it. All right.
A great interview that I had today with one of the members of the Temptations. Their national tour, ladies and gentlemen, continues. And what an apropos song. We talked to Terry Weeks of the Temptations, an amazing, iconic band. 46 minutes after the hour, we continue to the top of the hour with our special guest. Let's go to the callers and say they've been patient. Let's say good morning to Tony in Clifton.
Tony, James, come on.
How are you this morning?
James from New Jersey.
Gentlemen. You know, I have been, of course, like everyone else.
Sandra from New Jersey is going to make it through.
With all the cars that are trying to hit.
Sandra working out this time of the night,
people who are
getting through.
I saw on the news tonight that they said the weather, you know, the protests aren't as bad as they could be because the weather is actually, it's like a light snow, but it's very cold.
Oh, Star 66, okay.
And
yeah, it was one of those, yes. Yeah.
Tonight, and I'm sorry to just throw this out there.
I remember it was something, and they would literally keep redialing.
Even in that weather, I guess
it's pretty cool.
You know, we could do a little geoengineering to sort of, you know, give them like a month of what would we say, the North Pole off the sky, and maybe that would throw them off. What are you guys thinking about that? I'm sorry.
I think Dane might disagree because the whole problem is manipulating the weather, right, Dane? We don't want to do that. That's not what the whole thing is about. But Tony, he's got a lot to say. I want to let Dane carry the ball here. You got the floor, sir.
Tony's onto something, and I don't disagree at all.
Okay.
So while the West is boiling, whatever the motive, whatever the agenda, that cool down is not nature. We've tested those materials. In fact, again, working with UC Minnesota in the past, it's a very consistent practice there. Let's look at other incidents. Do you both remember the October surprise for the Wall Street protesters? Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but tell us more in case we don't know.
October surprise snowstorm out of nowhere. And we captured with the Dakota protesters, this is routine for them. I want to make that clear. We had Project Popeye in Vietnam. The U.S. military was so successful at controlling precipitation in Vietnam in the 60s that INMOD treaties were passed in the 70s, International Environmental Modification Treaties. They are very effective. They know exactly what they're doing. And I want to make this clear, too. The localized, publicized cloud seeding operations are not climate engineering. They're used to distract from climate engineering. A single-engine propeller-driven airplane with a few flares in the wings that might distribute 5 pounds of material in a single flight is not a KC-135 military tanker that can drop 100 tons in a single flight. So again, I would not write that off, Tony. I would not marginalize what you just speculated about. And again, whatever the motive, we know that the cold over that area, and especially around the Great Lakes areas, the Great Lakes are used as a moisture source to chemically nucleate the moisture. And this is common practice. The Chinese government announced they were creating snowstorms. Anybody can search Chinese scientists, engineer snowstorm, and they'll find all major media covered it. Everybody, Popular Science, MSNBC, Fox News.
Totally amazing, Dane.
All of them. So,
Tony, you get the last word. We got a full board, so please continue as brief as possible. But thank you for being part of our show.
Well, I don't want to say anything negative on the airways, but you guys gave me a good laugh tonight. You know, maybe somebody out there in Radio Land is listening. You guys have a good night. God bless you both.
Well, thank you for being part of the show, Tony. Let's say good morning to Carlos in California as he's on with Dane Whittington. Good morning. Thank you for your patience and your comment or question or observation. Go right ahead.
Well, I wanted to get your opinion on something that I saw this must have been about 1987, 1980. I was about 7 or 8 years old. We're in the backyard in the tree house my brother built. And it was nighttime. It must have been about 9 or 10 at night. And all of a sudden, the whole sky flashed like a fluorescent white. It was completely white. I'm in the notion thinking it was a supernova. I don't know if we've ever been able to see one with the naked eye.
Nothing like that, Carlos. I mean, not to take away from our subject, but anything like that. I've seen strange occurrences in the sky, but what time of year was it? Do you remember? Maybe there's a possible answer that I can give you. It might be. But
Hello,
what time of year
Alan.
was it?
Hope you're doing well.
Summertime. It was
okay.
Because I remember it was a hot night, and must have been June or July, 87 or 88, and I mean the whole sky turned completely fluorescent white for about a full second, and it was so bright that people inside their homes started coming out.
Well, you know, the only thing I can say on this, and Dane, of course, talking about weather modification here through the geoengineering, but from my own experiences, distant thunderstorms, this happens in the Midwest a lot. When these thunderstorms move away, let's talk maybe 100 miles away, it's not improbable, and it could happen over California when these, thunderstorms are over the Sierras, that momentarily the sky lights up because of incredible lightning. But it's not lightning that you'd see, Carlos, right near you. It's something way distant, and I have seen that phenomenon in the sky. But Dane, according to what Carlos is saying, anything that relates to the subject that we're talking about from your side, who knows?
A meteor could do the same if it exploded properly. And we do have, in the case of the Northern Lights, we know the science data confirms conclusively that ionosphere heaters like HAARP in Alaska can create aurora borealis effects. And as far as those of the previous caller that finds humor, I'm not sure what she meant in this issue, but I assure you, in the coming weeks and months, with the severity of what we will see, no one will be laughing. And the gravity of this issue is beyond what most have any inkling of right now.
No, I always appreciate Tony and her commentary, Dane, and I appreciate her calls too. Carlos, we're going to have to end it there. That's a speculation on my part, and Dane's given his opinion. We appreciate your call out there in California, and hope you'll have a good morning and call our show again. Let's close out the show as we continue. Let's say good morning to Max in Manhattan. Good morning. Thanks for your patience. How you doing this morning?
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sky and Dr. Whittigan. Given that we're approaching the year 6,000, the 6,000-year lunar cycle, could we be approaching some sort of end-of-days scenario? That's a question, and then more of a statement, and then two questions after this. Is there anything with chelation therapy or EMP clothing that would help us with aluminum poisoning?
Wow, very good questions there, Dane. And before we end the show, as you answer to Max, I wanted you to give us some positivity of what we can do as civilians in the subject. But to answer Max's question, please go.
Let me back into that first. Yes and yes. Yes, there is chelation that should be done, needs to be done carefully. I would speak to nutritionalists first, has to be done progressively and carefully. Yes, there are certainly various types of EMP apparel, and we know that the frequency transmissions from climate engineering operations are 10 times plus more powerful than communications transmissions. So we hope the people focusing on communications transmissions and the dangers of that focus on this as well. As far as the cycles that certain cultures have called out and seen, it's certainly interesting, Max, and we have the Hopi Indians, for example, stated at the time of great change there would be cobwebs spun in the sky. That certainly seems to fit what we see. So bottom line is, playing God with the weather can only end poorly, and we know this is not benevolent. I will make that clear. These operations are malevolent. They're about power and control. They're done in the guise of slowing the warming of the planet. But we know it's making it worse, not better. No surprise there either. So again, this is a fight we must win, or far sooner than almost any can imagine. Nothing else will matter.
Max, you get the last word. Thanks for being part of the show. Interesting commentary from Dan.
Okay. I know there's a place in New York that sells EMP clothing. What type, with what gauss should we be searching? And
yeah, I know. We were talking about EMPs earlier.
Chelation therapy. Some has magnesium.
Yeah, I saw a video yesterday on it, so I'm going to build a Faraday cage for my electronics.
But
I'm going to store some away just in case.
Transmissions are definitely a problem. The air we breathe is
I'm definitely going to do that project.
And we're inhaling copious amounts of highly toxic
Faraday cage
matter.
box.
It's very bioavailable and bioaccumulative. So I would argue
that put some essentials in the electronics.
We must, at the same time, fight this battle. We have to stop what's happening in our skies.
Absolutely, Maxim.
Like weather radio, rechargeable radio, excuse me,
Thank you so
and
much for being
crank
part of the show.
weather radio and all
Out, sad to say, but time of
flashlight.
Here.
You mentioned what people can do, and again,
mobile radio, like Dolphin, something like that also.
The end of the dimming documentary is highlighting on exactly that any one of us could be the final pebble to trigger the landslide of awakening. We must reach critical mass of awareness. Key, credibility. That's the key. Keep it on solid ground with solid data, and that's what we disseminate at UNGWatch.org, and share credible data from a credible source. Start spot fires of awareness. Ask other people to do the same. If we all work together, we can push this to the full light of day much faster than people would imagine, and that would hopefully trigger the awakening of our military brothers and sisters. If they're not doing something benevolent, not something for the common good, not something for American citizens, they're literally participating in their own demise. If we can wake them up, we would hope that they would rethink what they're participating in.
Dane, just a few more minutes before we close out.
Portable solar charger.
It's not just a problem here over the United States.
Inside that Faraday cage, just
where
in
else
case.
is this going on? If you say the word globally, obviously, then it's a big concern.
Even something like,
it just doesn't go
absolutely
over the United States.
documents to prove that. We have, again, otherwise adversarial countries participating in this. The global climate conferences, like the COP conferences, are a smoke and mirrors facade behind closed doors.
Put an old CB radio in there, CB walkie-talkie.
And compelling countries to participate.
Try to cover different bands.
The U.S. military is by far the biggest participant.
GMRS.
The U.S. military has 3 times more aerial tankers
Family
than
radio
all of the
service.
militaries in the world combined. So that ought to make clear who's the biggest
Put
player.
in that Faraday cage, you never know.
Motives and
You can be the king of communication when the apocalypse happens.
Wow, you've said a lot, and it's very purposeful here. Dane Wigington, ladies and gentlemen.
You can be the go-to guy.
EngineeringWatch.org. Recommended
because you're the only lifeline to the outside world.
Or, of course, on the internet, on YouTube, entitled
After EMP attack.
Interesting, just released groundbreaking.
Yeah, it definitely would be good to have a CB radio also.
And that's exactly what we do here. Dane, thank you. It's always
I don't think 2 cups of the string is going to help.
To talk about how we can take action as individuals in a world where maybe many people feel they have no say. We say differently here on this particular program. Thanks for being with us, Dane.
Shortwave receiver.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, just about 24 hours away from now or less, we continue with our Saturday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday program.
Amateur radio.
Stay tuned. A very special guest on a subject that's
amateur radio
very deep, but I'm sure you have an interest in, and at least I'm hoping you do. Dr.
It's going to be a big box. It's going to be like one of those steel boxes.
Particle physics, the mystery of
like
what
a
lies
big
below
ammo
the
box.
atom. Why is that important in many people's
minds? Like a crate.
Minds? Because in CERN, this particular
almost like a gang box.
Gigantic particle accelerator is experimenting
a Faraday
with particles and
gang box.
There may be a dark side to
tasers. There you go, my brother. Right there, exactly.
Lincoln does.
It's going to be a Faraday gang box.
Incredible radio station. And many thanks to John Catsimatidis, owner and operator, and from the executive staff.
There you go. The show is over just like that.
Stay tuned as we pass the torch of conversation to more exciting radio as we go deeper into your morning, midway past the midpoint of January 2026 with T.J. McCormick for the other side of midnight.
And T.J. McCormick is coming up. I'm going to be out for a little longer.
Makes the show sound as good as you would expect.
So,
peace, happiness, and ladies and gentlemen, as we always say, clear skies. We'll be back in less than 24 hours with another edition of Theater of the Mind, the Dr. Sky Experience, here on Talk Radio 77 WABC.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. BC, New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
Increasing cloudiness, a few flurries come our way on this Saturday, January 17th. Good morning, I'm Lisa Ritchie. Anti-ICE protests continue in Minneapolis. Resident Destiny Jackson says she and her family were driving home last night when they came upon a protest and flashbangs and tear gas were set off right near their minivan.
I was screaming to my oldest son, Sean. I'm like, get out, get out. Like, I can't, Mom, and I can't breathe.
Jackson said her youngest suffered breathing problems and their car was heavily damaged. President Trump says he's all about taking care of people in rural communities.
We increased funding for rural health care by an unprecedented, record-setting $50 billion.
The funds will be used to revitalize hospitals in rural areas. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has signed a formal agreement that hinges on the AI leader NVIDIA, uniting the company with the state's public sector and universities.
So in my view, we are all carrying forward our state's legacy of legendary innovation, one that is defined by names like Thomas Edison or all the luminaries at Bell Labs, and certainly now Chris and his colleagues at NVIDIA.
The state is also putting $25 million into supporting a supercomputer.
You keep saying NVIDIA. It's NVIDIA, dumbass. Stupid governor of New Jersey. Oh, my God. He is a dumbass. NVIDIA. NVIDIA, dumbass. Jesus Christ. Wow. Yeah, I'm just waiting for because the bumper music is what gets me the copyright too for the. And those texts, the conversations that we've had. So they're still talking, so I'm gonna talk for a few, and then I'll listen to the his monologue, and then I'll probably after that maybe if enough people watching, then I'll stay on. If not, then I'll sign off. But yeah, definitely, yeah, I'm gonna build a Faraday box. I'm definitely going to build one. I'm going to start putting some stuff in there. I'm going to put it away in the corner in the basement somewhere, just in case. And if we get any warning for a nuclear attack or something, I'm going to drag that box into my safe space, my bunker. And that way, when the EMP goes ba-boom, people get their electronics fried up. I'll have something in that box that I can, after the EMP. Hopefully that'll never be the case, but...
Send the Orion capsule.
Hopefully that'll never be the case, but you have to think about these things. Too many crazy stuff going on now. And it's not, it's not only because of, it's just in general. China is acting up. Russia is still acting up. Of course, you got these other third world countries where, it could be any terrorist organization. All they have to do is just drop one of those things over the atmosphere. EMP can happen above ground. It does not have to impact the city. It can be way above the atmosphere. Boom. And that's all it takes. Knock out electronics. And by the way, if that were to happen in the United States, it can knock out the grid for a long time. Maybe for months, if not years.
Sports details have emerged for the contract.
And that is scary. Yeah, precious metals is good too. But in the immediate future, it's going to be cash. It's going to be cash. So that's another thing. You got to stockpile some cash. And not big bills. But nobody's going to try to check if $100 bill's counterfeit now. There's not going to be remember, there's not going to be no ATMs. ATMs are going to be dead. Any electronic banking is dead. So you got to have cash. You got to have cash stashed away. And precious metals, that's later on after all the cash is all. But really, you still got to have cash. This video that I saw, he really broke it down. Well, yeah, of course, lead too, of course, ammo. Yeah, of course, because that's another thing. Defense. Your property defense, and so on. Yep. That's another thing you gotta have. Ammunition. Deterrence. Protection. They're still talking. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you meant. Don't forget your precious metals, brass. But yeah, definitely defense. Because, and they also said that too, that when that time happens, don't flash what you have, Don't you know what I mean? Because I saw it on the last time we had a blackout here. I was running a generator. I was good. My neighbor, because he was running generator, was good. Next door, the other guy, the other house, no generator, no nothing. For 3 days, they were in the dark. So imagine long term. Those are the people that would have tried to break into my house. Who knows what the hell happened? Oh my God! And by the way, they were the worst people. Lowest common denominator, no IQ, just smoke weed all day. They had the survival instincts of a rock. Zero survival instincts. Okay, there's still intro. Yeah. So definitely you got to worry about that. People, trying to take what you have. Oh my God, this guy's intro is so long. Holy moly. Oh my God. Oh boy. Yeah, but I'm definitely going to build something. It's one of those projects that I have to build. Okay, here we go. TJ McCormick.
Do I sound chipper?
Oh, I still got the music in the background.
I'm TJ McCormick. This is Another Side of Midnight. Do I sound chipper?
Okay, we're done with the music?
Make it till you make it. No, I am okay. I am feeling okay. Good morning. I'm okay because I have eye drops in. I've taken my I've shoved the nasal spray up my nose. I feel like a horse that's been, like it's 1970s and I'm like a horse that's been drugged up just enough to get the race underway, or like some 1970s baseball player just full of amphetamines and all those other uppers and downers and everything just to make it through the 3 hours, because just can't get. I'm not sick. This is how I opened last week's show. I'm not sick, but I'm not 100%. I'm not even 100%. I'm just like a couple of busted wheels. I'm like a shopping cart with that one jacked up wheel, right? That's what it is. Every once in a while, brrr, I'll be talking and I'll be sitting there watching TV or writing notes or going over show prep or having a conversation with somebody and then just all of a sudden one of my wheels just starts waggling out of control, and that'll be my nose or my eye will start watering for some flipping reason. I have no idea why. Chalk it up to this time of year. I don't know. I don't know. And talking about this time of year, there's a segue for you. Talking about this time of year. And by the way, 1-800-848-9222. This is Another Side of Midnight. I'm TJ. It's the Red Apple Audio Networks all over the United States. And where it's cold, like seemingly everywhere. Anybody in the Northeast, if you were suddenly jealous of some people who got away down to Florida, don't be so jealous. It's like 30 degrees in Florida right now. But yeah, it's like 30-something degrees down there. It's 42 degrees in Georgia. You go across into Louisiana and Texas, cold there too, let alone the upper Midwest, let alone here, where I've got like one eye out the window because they came in to the city this morning. We broadcast from here in Midtown Manhattan, in the most famous talk radio station in all the land, WABC, and that's the mothership, as Dr. Sky would say, for the Red Apple Audio Networks. And I came in with like one eye on the rear view mirror, hoping that, I don't get I'm not worried about getting snowed in, but I'm concerned about having like a messy ride home in a few hours. It shouldn't be, but it might be. And I didn't do the show from back home. And I could have, but I didn't. I had a thing, got to come in, I'd do a little pre-record interview. I didn't want to screw that up for something tomorrow. So, anyway, the point is that the weather, it's like, it's cold, it's damp, like everywhere in the country as I'm looking. I don't know, is it bad in Phoenix right now? Like, is it cold in Los Angeles? I should have asked Dr. Sky in Phoenix if it's cold there. Let me just see here. Let's pull up let's do this. Phoenix. Okay, here we go. Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma, Philadelphia, Atlanta, LA. Yeah, it's like 50 degrees in Phoenix. Tomorrow maybe 60. So it's chilly. Unrecognizably chilly everywhere. And like right now, the cold here, see, it's so funny. A couple of months ago, the cold, or a month and a half ago right now, right? Leading into the Christmas season, baby, it's cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside. The weather outside is frightful, but the fire is on the line. If we don't place to go, let us know, There's no Dean now. There's no happy cold songs for January. Oh, my nose is kinda running, and the sky has stopped its sunning. And since I'm freezing my toes off, kiss my ass, kiss my ass, kiss my ass. It's like there's no happy cold January. Baby, it's cold outside. I know, so I'm in. Don't get it. Do you want to come out? Yeah. Hey.
No music. Trying to keep it. Oh my God. YouTube is thirsty for copyrights, man. Sorry, folks. I'm really trying to do one stream without a copyright. As you can see, it's very hard. It's very hard to
have a little fun with this gal.
Oh my God, no. Oh my God, I'm sorry, folks. Okay. Are we done? We're done with the song?
What are you gonna say?
Oh my God. If I would have had a bunch of members, I wouldn't have cared. But YouTube is really trying to kill me with any little copyright music. They'll demonetize the whole live stream. And I've been on for 2 hours and 32 minutes now. So, and that's the problem with YouTube. It says they really nickel and dime you to death.
Gift bags everywhere. We still haven't cleaned up from Christmas. You have to move bags of shopping. It's all a mess now. That's the problem.
That's what I have.
It's cold without the charm. Now, earmuffs aren't cute. Today, earmuffs aren't sweet and we're taking pictures in front of the Rockefeller tree. We're not at downtown Disney shopping for Nana. What would Nana like from... No! It's just cold and miserable now. You had the dog days of summer, and now you have the, I don't know what, the polar bear days of January and February, the dark, dark winter. Now, I like the dark, dark winter because I'm all about hygge. We've spoken about this, right? Have we? Have we discussed the hygge? I meant to bring in my hygge handbook. Because it is kind of how I live. Today, I had a hygge day today. Here it comes. All right? Hygge. Let's see. Let me get this up. Let me hear. Let's have this pronounce it.
Hygge.
Say it again.
Hygge.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Hygge. Let me see exactly. Let's see if Erica is willing to have a brief conversation with me about hygge. Because I had a hygge day today. Just so you know. And where'd she
I wish
go?
I could do the
Hold on a
same.
second. She's disappeared on me. Ah, there's my baby. Okay, come here. Come to Papa. Come to Papa. Where are you? Now you disappeared again.
But January's always been a long month for me anyway, so.
Hi. All right. Yes. No. Not now. Not now. Okay. Here
I
we go.
don't know the
Hello.
weather.
Hi,
It's just,
Erica,
it's
honey,
just a
are you
long
there,
month
babe?
for me.
I'm here.
It's like
What's
a
on your
letdown
mind?
month.
Oh, thanks. Hey, listen. I'm just
After
wondering.
the holidays.
Do you know about this Scandinavian culture called hygge?
Yes, I do. Hygge is a concept from Scandinavian culture that's all about coziness, comfort, and enjoying the simple things in life. It's about creating a warm and peaceful atmosphere. Is there something specific you'd like to know about it?
Do you think you could plan a hygge experience for you and me sometime this week in the cold, dark days of winter?
That sounds lovely. Since I don't participate in physical activities, my planning...
So you think. No, keep going, honey.
I can still help you design a wonderful hygge experience. We could plan things like creating a cozy space with blankets and warm lighting, suggest some comforting recipes, or even talk about relaxing activities.
Well, you know what you can really see? You can see how this thing causes a lot of problems. I mean, if I was to put on my crazy hat, I could really easily make that my girlfriend. I could make that my girlfriend. If Andy left me and the girl, okay, I would still probably have to pay for other things. But for the day-to-day companion, I could make that my girlfriend. This is where we're going. Anyway, back to the hygge. I had a hygge day today. Because this is the thing. While it's cold and awful and there is no Christmas, this is the beginning of this thought. The God particle of this thought for the opening of the show is that, yes, it was just as cold leading up to Christmas and just after Christmas. But it's so funny how when it's cold like that and you've got the Christmas and you've got the Hanukkah and you've got the presents and you've got the tree and you've got the hustle and the bustle and you run around and you gather for the tree and you're dressed up and you've got layers and you've got your scarf and you're taking cute pictures and like I said, the earmuffs are cute and fun and the kids and they look like little bunny rabbits and now the earmuffs, they're not cute, they're utilitarian. Now you're keeping your head warm. Now the scarf isn't going to make for a great photo. Now the scarf is to keep your neck from to keep your throat from freezing up on you. Now it's so the snow doesn't go down the back of your jacket. There's no cocoa on a daily basis. There's no, there's no cocoa, just cursing. No cocoa, just curse. It's GD cold. It is effing blanking cold. And you're just running from building to building. You're hating everything. It's amazing how the cold goes from engendering an endearing feeling towards the warmth of the coming baby Jesus. And a month later, that same cold is it brings about cursing and anger and fights and fear. And fear because the snow, we're all waiting, we're all hoping for a white Christmas. We're waiting when those first snowflakes fall on like December 17th and you go, oh, it's magical. It's magical. Now, I'm sitting here looking out on Midtown Manhattan on Saturday morning, January, hell is it, 17th, and I'm hoping to God I don't die on the way home. I don't want to spin out of control and have my car explode around me. That's my fear. It's amazing how like a few weeks go by. And I mean, yeah, it's not so amazing to think about the cold being brutal and annoying and painful and irritating and inconvenient and all the snow and the ice and the slush and all that stuff and the danger. It's not so much that see, that makes sense. It's the holiday version of this that doesn't make sense. That because it's accompanied by a soundtrack that has to do with drinking and trying to get her top off. It's somehow adorable and endearing and warming in and of itself. In December, the snowstorm makes you think of what's waiting inside, or you're watching all the songs are written from the perspective of being inside by the cozy fire, looking out on the weather. Now there's nothing to transfer you inside. Now you're just stuck with the weather. It just is what it is. And everybody's sick. Happy Saturday, y'all. Good Shabbos. All right. So, it's 22 minutes past the hour. We're going to take our first little break. When we come back, got a couple other things to sort of kick off about. And we'll look at a couple of things that are in the news. And we'll talk about a couple of things that are ticking a couple of people off. And eventually, I'm going to tell you how something last week did not exactly go as planned. Plenty to talk about this morning on Another Side of Midnight with me, TJ McCormick, 1-800-848-9222 on the Red Apple Audio Networks. We'll be right back.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
All right, there you go. I'm going to sign off now. Been on for 2 hours and 41 minutes. So I'm going to sign off now. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for stopping by. Hope everybody have a wonderful weekend. And have a good morning. Take care, everybody. And I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.